Guess it's better if I add myself to the damn stream, ain't it? Oh, so we see Lindsey Graham dies at 71. That ought to be interesting around there. They're already fighting to get what they can get done now. Now with one less Republican. But, you know, Lindsey sure wasn't more. He liked war a lot, didn't he? What's up, Big Shy? Happy Sunday to you, sir. Hopefully everything's going good. So I see the IRGC already claimed responsibility, and I guess the feds are going to waste money investigating. I mean, just do an autopsy on the guy and see if something fucking was in the system. What's up, Forrest? How you doing? It's just weird, man, when they start doing that. But let's see what old Dave here's got to say.
Hope you guys are doing great wherever you're watching from today. I'm filming this on July 12th. All information is up to date as of July 12th. And overnight intense combat operations and bombing operations were underway against Iran. Iran responding with massive missile attacks across the Middle East. We've got the footage. We've got the details about what is going on and how it all started and where we go from here, as it appears the war is now officially back on. This coming not long after Trump announced the ceasefire was done. It is over and the bombs are falling again. So we got a lot to get into. Before we get into it, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Cost you nothing. Huge boost to the channel. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Do you want to see the bombings continue? What do you think about us smacking around Iran? Do you think Iran will be defeated?
This dude here likes death too much, right? And his dumb ass thinks that Iran's got him on a hit list. I'm like, come on, bro. You're just a fucking YouTuber.
Let me know in the comments below. Hit the notification bell. All notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then Instagram, David_Hookstead, XD Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are wide open. Reach out with whatever you got. Now, let's get into it. So this is how it all started. The Iranians blew up and bombed another ship in the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Oman that was attempting to use the Omani U.S. route to get in and or out of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran responding by bombing it. Now, we're going to have some more details later in the video about Iran declaring the Strait of Hormuz is officially closed again. So this is what, the 7th, 8th ship the Iranians have blown up just in the past week. So we all knew as soon as this alert came out that this ship had blown up, we all knew what was coming next. And what was coming next was a massive U.S. air campaign. So this is footage. So we're going to get into some footage from the ground.
So they say that China is kind of like sending warning signals to the United States that they're testing all these missiles and shit. So who knows, man? This shit could get real hairy real quick.
Strike locations. Then we're going to get into the footage released by the U.S. government and the Iranian response. This is footage from Bushehr, Iran, a port area where you can see in southern Iran, you can see smoke in the air. This is following the U.S. attack. So right there, heavy smoke in the air. Right here, this is sounds of the Iranians shooting at U.S. fighter jets. Let's listen.
Introducing Iron Beam, the best choice for futures trading. Iron Beam is the industry leader.
Now, if you're curious about what's going on over there, you can follow all that shit on X, because this guy takes a while to bring it out. So if you want to kind of keep up to date, faster information, just go over to Twitter, because that's all he's doing. He's just pulling these clips off Twitter's off.
So that is the sound of Iranian anti-aircraft fire firing at U.S. jets right here. More smoke on the screen following U.S. strikes, the aftermath of the
US is damn sure knocking them for a loop over there. This now. U.S. is damn sure putting it on their ass.
Is apparently, I believe, these are cruise missiles spotted over Iraq, Markazi province. Could be HIMARS too, but U.S. weapons in the air flying over Iran to strike targets. Now, in terms of some strike locations, We hit Vazan, which is, it says an Iranian official says the city of Vazan in western Iran was struck twice during earlier U.S. airstrikes. The city lies roughly 200 miles inland from the Persian Gulf. So this is one of the areas the U.S. hit. And again, several explosions in Kangan and Bashir following heavy U.S. strikes. Also, explosions, U.S. airstrikes in Mashhar following the U.S. initiating hostilities following the blowing up another ship. And then Bandar Abbas. Bandar Abbas has been absolutely hammered non-stop since this war started and since a return to hostilities. Bandar Abbas getting it again last night. And then U.S. officials, according to Brock Ravid, told me among the targets were air surveillance radar, missile and drone storage, missile and drone launch sites, surveillance, surveillance radars. And
what do y'all think about the mayor of New York trying to fucking set up interviews with these people from Iran? Like, why is the mayor reaching out to people like that? They need to do something with that dude.
Surface to air missiles. And then Pete Hegseth saying Iran made a poor choice. Now they pay. And then right here, this is the footage released by the U.S. government. It says U.S. forces finished latest round of strikes against Iran. CENTCOM completed a third round of strikes this week against Iran, July 11th, holding Iranian forces accountable for attacking another commercial ship in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. forces hit approximately 140 Iranian military targets with precision munitions.
Me and Amanda was talking this morning, and I said, here's the deal, right? They're not going to be able to do anything to us right now, but in a year or two, when all this shit kind of dies down, how would you go back about trying to pay back to the United States? And she just kind of looked at me, and I was like, you want to know how I do it? And she's like, how's that? I said, I'd come in by the water to one of these little ports somewhere, and then just cause destruction, as much destruction as I could. But see, these people were born thinking that if they died during some kind of like retaliatory strikes or something like that, they're getting all these virgins. And it's weird. They have a weird, fucked up religion.
Launched by land and sea-based fighter aircraft, drones, and naval vessels. Targets included missile and drone sites, naval capabilities, ammunition storage facilities, communication networks, and coastal surveillance locations. During 3 nights of strike this week, CENTCOM has struck more than 300 targets at the direction of the commander-in-chief to degrade Iran's ability to attack civilian mariners and commercial vessels freely transiting the strait. Commercial vessels transits through the vital international maritime corridor continues. Make a note of that because Iran says differently. Since earlier May, U.S. forces have helped facilitate the transit of more than 800 vessels and 400 million barrels of crude. Now, I'm going to warn you right now, it's going to get loud.
That's so fucking badass. What's up,
Cruise missiles are off. And then right here, boom, direct hit on target. Another direct hit on target. That's a launcher destroyed. Another clean hit. That's a missile being taken out. I believe that is a radar truck that no longer exists.
That is so fucking crazy. Well, we've come
they
a
are
long
putting
way, ain't we?
Warheads on foreheads over Iran at this hour. And then we know that
another day, another return. Let's see what this is about.
Hey, I've been using this for weeks and it works, but why do we only need a ton?
that a major leader, Hamad Raza Digan, the Naval Air Defense Officer of the IRGC Army, was eliminated in the strike. So a major leader was taken out. A major Iranian naval leader was taken out. Yet we knew the Iranians were going to fire back. Eyewitness report shared by Vahid Online said missiles were launched from Komen and Alagadars areas around 5 a.m. local time. Some residents also reporting hearing loud, prolonged sounds and seeing 2 missile trails. So this is
What's
the
up,
missile
Captain
trails in the sky of the Iranian counterattack, launching ballistic missiles. This is more missiles being fired towards U.S. and Middle East assets. You can hear them in the air. And then right
What's
here,
up, Captain America?
this is more missile launches. So Iranian ballistic missiles in
Bro,
the
I
air.
was like, just stop, Dave. I did in his last video in the comments. I was like, just stop, man. All Americans are on that list, buddy. What's up, Deb?
You can see the trails of them. And then right here, this is smoke rises over the largely abandoned U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain following Iran's missile attack.
So the fucking IRGC has claimed like 10 times that they just wiped out the fucking Fifth Fleet. How many times can you sink one ship? That's all I'm wondering.
So you can see heavy smoke in the air after the Iranian ballistic missile attack on the location. Unclear how many were intercepted or how many were able to get through clean. But a very serious and fluid.
I'm not trying to troll him or anything, but ain't nobody. He's a fucking 400,000 subscribers. He's not a big time YouTuber
situation.
Okay,
so now this is air defenses over Qatar working to intercept the missiles.
I don't know.
And then right here, more air defense over Qatar. And then next up, this is Bahrain. Bahrain coming under heavy attack, launching its air defenses, its interceptors. You can see an interceptor going up right there. And again, unclear if there were interceptions. So the Iranians announcing military bases and economic infrastructure were targeted in 4 cities in Bashur province, Iran. And then Iran announcing the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. IRGC Navy has announced that due to the emergence of insecurity caused by, quote, illegal foreign intervention, the Strait of Hormuz is closed until further notice and until the cessation of U.S. interference in the region. No vessels will be permitted to transit. And then lastly, numerous fighter jets spotted over Tehran headed north. So we have multiple fighter jets spotted over Tehran headed north as the missiles and bombs continue to fall. So as of me filming this, the U.S. has carried out the largest strikes in months in Iran, Iran responding with ballistic missiles across the region. We will continue to monitor the situation and update you all throughout the day as of me filming this on July 12th.
I
want to know what you think.
Fucking Trump threatens to nuke.
Wow!
Yeah.
That's about right.
Welcome in, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great wherever you're watching from today. I'm filming this on July 11th. All information is up to date as of July 11th. And overnight, President Trump releasing a statement vowing the total annihilation of Iran if they follow through on the kill list threat to take him out. So we're going to get into that. But on top of that, we have multiple planes, including the Russians, evacuating Iran.
Yeah,
as it
appears
appears
new
new waves
dollars to answer somebody's question when you really don't know shit. Is like, what the fuck?
of strikes are imminent. That is right. Multiple different mysterious planes are scrambling to different locations. We also have satellite imagery that is proof that Iran is rebuilding its nuke facility. So we got a lot to get into.
Glad
And
that people even watch him. You know what I mean?
there's also another mysterious explosion. So we're going to break it all down. Before we do, please make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. How should the USA react if the kill list is actually successful? Let me know in the comments below. Hit the notification bell. All notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then Instagram, David_Hookstead, XD Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are wide open. Reach out with whatever you got. Now let's get into it. So we have talked about this at length. And late last night, shortly before midnight, President Trump hopping on Truth Social. So let's set the stage here. It has been reported, and Trump has confirmed, I believe, 4 different times now about the existence of the Iranian kill list. Who is on the kill list? We know that Trump is on it, as well as other senior government officials. It is also believed.
Right? Here's the thing. Iran don't give a fuck about all the threats. It don't mean anything to them people. Their life don't mean shit.
Via the assessments, the intelligence assessments, that members of the media who pushed for this war and wanted to get the supreme leader killed, including myself, could be on it, although we have no confirmation of that as of this time. The only one we know for sure is Trump, although we also do know other people are on it. We just don't know their identities. Trump has talked about this repeatedly over the past few days, and then he released this statement late last night saying 1,000 missiles are locked and loaded and aimed
not respond to your chat unless they pay you. That's a little fucked up, you know.
The Islamic Republic of Iran, with thousands of more to immediately follow should the Iranian government act on its threat pronounced in many corners of the globe to assassinate or attempt to assassinate the sitting president of the United States of America, in this case, me. Orders have already been given, and the United States military is ready, willing, and able for 1 year of time, subject to extension, to completely decimate and destroy all areas of Iran. Praise be to Allah. So this is the statement from President Trump. He doesn't
praise be to Allah
say nukes specifically. He says 1,000 missiles. But in the statement, he says to completely decimate and destroy. Iran is a huge country, a huge landmass country. It's, I think, bigger than half of Europe. It is massive. What he is doing here is he is making it clear, if you take me out, we are going to use nukes, which you would be justified, and this might trigger some people. If the president of the United States is killed in a hostile act from a foreign country, we would be more than justified to use nukes. And that is now what he is not so subtly hinting at is going to happen in the event
I don't think
he is taken out, which obviously,
just to be honest, I don't think anybody would let Trump use nukes. Do you think that the fucking government would let him nuke?
What's up, y'all? Today we're going to be taking a look at my 2006 Hobie Outback. This thing is
we don't care about
about as old as they get. I think the original model was either 2003 or 2004. So not well versed in my Hobie history, but this thing's about as old as they get. Very the original model, classic version of one of the most popular fishing kayak ever made.
I don't know. He's a little war fucking monger. He is a little warmonger. I've noticed that. Yeah, I doubt it too. I doubt it too.
Arab Emirates.
But you have to realize now, you drop nukes, even in Iran, that shit's bad for the environment for that whole fucking region, not just Iran. When the wind carries that radioactive material, you know, to different countries and shit, it really could cause some harm.
This comes just a day after Iran's supreme leader pledged revenge against President Trump and the U.S. for the killing of his father, Ali Khamenei.
I was thinking about it. I'm willing to bet that they put CIA on some of them container ships and as they were fucking going into Iran to get them off in that region. Because that makes sense. You know what I mean? If they was to sneak in like that. Because, you know, there's a lot of explosions going on over there. People being murdered out of nowhere and shit. And what better way to get them in than on some of them container ships? You know, they not saying that they wouldn't suspect it, but it's a lot easier to sneak in like that than it would be to. Because where the fuck are you going to land over there? You can't go to the airport.
Take a look at this post right here. This was
Hey,
posted
Diamond,
on
how
the
you doing?
official page and attributed there to Ayatollah Mashtaba Khamenei, again, the son of Ali Khamenei. It says, to our martyred leader, O unjustly slain leader, O righteous servant
I
of
think that's
God,
what's
we
going to end
pledge
up
to
happening,
safeguard
Bulldog,
your legacy.
eventually. And like you say, people don't like it, but I've said that from the very beginning. The only way to really whip them is to go in there by troops. And now I'm afraid that that's what it's going to take. You know, I don't want to see none of our soldiers die, but the reality of it is if we don't do something now and gain control of it, this shit's just going to drag on and it's going to suck the whole world's economy down. Why they fucking let these people even get in the position to be able to to crash the economy around the world, I have no idea. But I also find it kind of amusing that their economy is fucked up and they got all the oil. That makes no sense to me. Just like Africa being one of the richest, nations as far as natural resources, and they're poor as fuck. Like, what the fuck is going on?
To steadfastly traverse the straight path you laid out, to fear no hardships along the way, and to attach our hearts to divine promises and glad tidings as you did. We pledge to avenge your pure blood and the blood of all the martyrs of these two recent wars by taking revenge against the criminal, disgraceful murderers. This vengeance is what our nation is demanding, and this must definitely be done. The criminal, disgraceful murderers of the martyred leader, whose names are fully documented from the highest to the lowest ranks, will carry their dream of a peaceful death in bed to the grave. Again, a threat there, not only to the U.S., but also to President Trump, as we know that there have been reports circulating that President Trump does have thousands of missiles there potentially pointed at Iran, saying they are locked and loaded if the IRGC does.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham died of a heart attack. These motherfuckers is trying to claim responsibility.
Let's try to assassinate him, as it appears that Israel provided the U.S. with some intelligence regarding a new plot by Iran to murder Trump. All right, a lot of developments there that we just went through in just a matter.
I don't know how true that shit is. I wouldn't believe shit that BB says.
Of minutes, but to break it down a little bit further, I want to bring in Seth Frantzman, an adjunct fellow there at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And Seth, as always, a lot to discuss here. Thank you so much for being with us on this Sunday.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and
like barbecue goats,
video downloads, so you can watch.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. And first off, we are looking at that live look over the Strait of Hormuz provided by Marine Traffic. And you can see there's not necessarily a lot of movement here, but definitely a lot of ships that are there in the water waiting to see.
Not a lot of movement. You dumb fuck. That thing is satellite driven. It doesn't give updates like fucking GPS in your car. You
see exactly how this plays out. But now that we have another ship that was struck there by Iran over in the strait as it was traveling, and the U.S. is resuming those strikes, does it appear that we are almost going back in time a few months and maybe even starting from scratch?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it seems that, since April, when there were kind of the initial ceasefires, there has been this kind of tit for tat in which Iran is trying to say that it controls the Strait of Hormuz and that anything that goes past there needs to kind of, get agreement from them or pay some kind of a toll or something. And so they're dictating the tempo. And the U.S. has been responding. I think that President Trump has indicated over the weekend or last week, that the U.S. would keep up these responses so that it's not just Iran that always gets to decide what to do. But you're seeing from Tehran that they are willing to try to meet the Americans in terms of the level of attack. So I think, CENTCOM said 140 or whatever the targets they'd struck. And Iran then, you mentioned that long list of countries that they're also attacking. So that's the cycle we're in. I guess the question is whether it grows or it gets reduced.
That's going to end up blowing up in her face. You watch and see. You can't just attack everybody because America's attacking you. They're going to get tired of that shit and start fighting back.
And I want to talk about some of those countries. Can you kind of explain the significance for folks out there when you talk about places
too, bro? Tattoo. I seen that shit.
Like Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, the UAE, they are being targeted here in retaliation. Can you kind of explain for folks out there maybe why that's the case?
Maybe
Well,
that's
from
why
Iran's
when
point of
goats have babies, they call them kids over there, huh?
Basically, they're attacking anything
They
that's
have to do
close to
DNA
right.
testing
So if these countries are not very far away from the shore of Iran, they're just across the water there. So they can target them easily. They can use long range drones. It's important to remember they have drones and ballistic missiles that can go several thousand kilometers. So from their point of view, they can just fire those from wherever they want, anywhere, basically within a.
That motherfucker was hungry, wasn't he? Let's see what Algier is saying.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation
system here in Gaza. Now, this was not the only attack that was targeted earlier today. 4 Palestinians were killed in this same exact place earlier today, and there was also another attack in central Gaza as 2 Palestinians were killed. Among them is a child and another Palestinian that's come to his wound. Another Palestinian died after the wounds that he sustained. Now, what we need to know is, and during any explosion, what happens is a lot of Palestinians get injured, and the fact that they go and get transferred to the hospital where there's no medical supplies and no medication, that's why the death toll increases every single day. Now, as you see, the fire is still bursting, but there's no firefighters, and this shows how the system in Gaza is actually collapsing, where there's no civil defense teams, there's no
That was some kind of
ambulances,
factory or something. I'm looking at machinery right here. They have fucked these people all the way up.
to put down this fire.
First, the Israelis used quadcopter drones, which dropped 3 bombs at us. Then they forced us to leave and continued to strike the area with airstrikes. Since the ceasefire was announced last year, we were trying to find a new house to settle in. We have nothing left. Everything is gone. How much worse can it get? What else will happen to our lives? We don't have shelter anymore, and we don't even have water.
This is the reality here in the Gaza Strip as the death toll rises to 7 every single day. The Israeli forces continue to violate and breach the ceasefire. More Palestinians are becoming homeless, losing their houses, losing their lives, and being injured. Palestinians feel that there's no place safe across Gaza, even for the fact that it's ceasefire. Hind Al-Khudri, Al Jazeera, Gaza, Palestine.
Israeli companies make millions of dollars from trade in Gaza and much of the occupied West Bank by monopolizing the supply chains. Palestinian companies recently petitioned Israel's High Court to change the policies that make it possible, but their request was denied. As Nooradi reports from Batunia, it's part of a pattern that keeps companies invested in Israel's occupation.
We just getting caught up in the news.
The Israeli army controls which goods enter Gaza and the occupied West Bank and how much. Now, these policies are illegal under international law, inviting increasing calls for sanctions against Israel. But available data reveals Israeli companies are profiting from these rules. In Gaza, Israel is prioritizing the entry of commercial goods from Israeli suppliers over humanitarian aid. 30 Israeli companies now monopolize the supply chain in Gaza, and only a handful of business owners in the Strip have the required Israeli security clearance to import goods. For example, Mehadrin, Israel's largest exporter of fresh produce, sold $20 million worth of products to Gaza in the first quarter of 2026.
Jesus Christ.
Human rights organizations have accused this company of exploiting Palestinian workers and trading products like dates from illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank, dates from stolen land that are now sold in Gaza. The result is that Palestinian markets in Gaza and the occupied West Bank are overtaken by Israeli products. And recent data shows that nearly half of the imports to the West Bank come from Israel. That's nearly $6 billion a year.
Be careful out there,
and Palestinian suppliers in the occupied West Bank are banned from selling to
Some more breaking news coming in. Iran now launches series of strikes against United States targets in the region. Explosion heard in Kuwait, Bahrain, Jordan after the Iranian retaliatory strikes on U.S. targets. Sirens blare in Bahrain after Iranian retaliatory strikes. Qatar also raises security threat level, urges people to stay home. The UAE's air defenses are currently engaging with missile attacks and incoming drones from Iran. And the minister.
Footage. My fucking screenshot like that. Iran just showed America who's boss. These people are fucking crazy. That shit. They can try to, make it sound like Iran's winning all they want to. All I know is they're fucking hiding in a goddamn cave over there somewhere. Trump's eating McDonald's and drinking Diet fucking Coke all over the fucking place. Let's go see what my crazy ass girlfriend's talking about. Is she back? No, she ain't even back. Damn, I must have fell asleep watching that shit.
Everyone keeps asking me how I do my podcast alone. The answer, Riverside. I get high.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You can calculate what the force of Earth's gravity is at your feet and the force of Earth's gravity is at your head, and you'll get two different numbers. They're very close to each other, so we don't think about this. It doesn't
give a fuck about no damn gravity either. Let's watch.
I've had bouts with depression throughout my career.
The motherfucker got drunk at the airport. Who gives a shit?
It hits me, it's bad.
Which kind of brings us to the airport incident.
Yeah. I really messed up.
Man, you and her.
What happened?
So it's Father's Day, and I felt good in the morning. I spent the morning with my kids, but then as I was traveling to work, I felt that feeling again. It's like a cloud in my head that I just can't get out from under. So I started drinking.
I'll fight you right now. No, I don't want to fight, bro.
And my emotions got the best of me.
Oh, relax, bro. Relax.
Got arrested.
This guy's a UFC fighter.
Did I just ruin everything that I was working for? I don't know yet. It could have been so much worse.
But what was going on in your mind?
Where I was angry at the world, and I just couldn't stop thinking about my father. He's actually homeless right now. And I try to help him out, and he's back out on the street. Not that anything's an excuse, but it wasn't myself. And I never really spoke about it until right now, but I'm back in therapy. And when you sit down with somebody and start opening things up, you realize this could be linked to my childhood.
And when I think about your earliest context, you got a father that's an alcoholic, violence in the home, and your mum said that you were an alcoholic kid.
I started drinking at 12, 13.
Expelled from school as well.
And got arrested, and I didn't have any goals.
So it was a bit of a roller coaster. But what happened?
Dustin Poirier. That's the dude from the UFC.
One of the best light.
He got pissy ass drunk the other day and threatened the cop at the fucking airport because they wouldn't let him on the plane. Now all of a sudden he's a child abuse victim. I get so tired of hearing that shit, man.
I was on top of the world.
But the roller coasters go down too, and this was the moment.
Yeah, man.
July 30th, you retired. How does it feel looking at that photo?
Yeah, I'm trying not to tear up, dude. It was my life, man. Those gloves, me putting them on the mat is a piece of myself I left. But a wise man said, if a man's lucky, he gets to die twice. That part of me that every day wake up, push yourself to be the best fighter you can be is dead. I'm retired Dustin. I'm businessman Dustin now. It's just, I'm trying to figure it all out. Because in 20 years, I was dreaming about being the best. I just want to dream again,
Has there ever been anything that compared?
No, nothing fills that void of what fighting was. And fighting was a part of therapy for me. And some days I wake up and I'm like, these top guys that are winning now on these upcoming cards, I can beat them still.
So is there any possibility that you ever return to the UFC? This is super interesting to me. My team give me this report to show me how many of you that watch this show subscribe. And some of you have told us, according to this, that you are unsubscribed from the channel randomly. So favor to ask all of you, please could you check right now?
Last week, which is not new to me, like my emotions get the best of me, kind of was in a bad spot mentally, started drinking, got arrested, got into some trouble at the airport in Atlanta. And, not proud of it.
To hear a
but
fucking girl make
it
me
is what
cry.
it is.
I want to give some background context. And I spent the last couple of days sort of looking through your childhood and where you come from and who you are to try and fill the picture of Dustin Poirier in my head. And I've got lots of photos of you here as a young man. Got another one even younger here that I'll share with you here.
Yeah.
And I think this is incredibly important context because I'd watched you fight the best that there is and beat the best that there is in the UFC. But it wasn't until I understood your earliest context that I started to like understand the picture of where you've come from. And also in some part, like how that makes you.
So let me guess. You get a little money, you fuck up, you pay these podcasters to try to spin and paint a narrative like you're some kind of fucking victim. Dude, you're a millionaire. Who
you are today. So take me back. What is the early context that people need to understand to really understand you as a man?
I'm just a man, trying his best, trying to provide for my family, learning as I go. Not scared to work hard, not scared to chase dreams. Just a kid from Lafayette, Louisiana, who found something to put his all into and try to become great at it, with fighting.
Your father and your grandfather were fighters?
My father boxed growing up when he was younger. My grandfather was in the Navy and worked in the oil field and stuff. They weren't successful fighters. I wouldn't say they were like, nobody knew who they were, but definitely, yeah, I come from fighters for sure.
And from money? Do you come from money?
No, definitely not.
What was that like growing up? It
was normal to me because I didn't know any different, It wasn't like I missed a meal or anything like that, but definitely wasn't rich or anything or had money to do a whole lot of things when I was younger. But a working class family,
And your parents divorced when you...
Yeah, I'm sorry to even make y'all even start watching that shit. Nobody gives a fuck about that shit. I watched most of this one, I believe.
I'm glad I started mining right here.
It was the...
Watch some little homo.
If you've been thinking about getting Pocket, this is your last chance to save 45%. At the tap of a button,
85% of the world's GDP and 60% of the world's welfare spending. Germany destroyed its nuclear facilities, thereby making itself reliant on Russian gas. And in Britain, we've destroyed our manufacturing, which is now produced elsewhere. And we've run down our armed forces because we have felt so safe and so comfortable because there's been no consequence. Well, the consequences are here.
Still in here?
Per person, we have less money today than we did
night while I was at work. And I said, damn, I bet British Bulldog
20 years ago. We have the highest tax...
Constantine. There is so much going on in the world right now that it is incredibly confusing to somebody like me who doesn't spend a lot of time thinking about geopolitics or the bigger picture.
This is one that you want to hear. I actually thought about you. Now, I didn't catch all of it because I was working. Like I say, I was all over the warehouse. But here we go. We'll listen to it again.
I'm very, very heads down, as I imagine a lot of people in my audience are. We kind of get on with our lives, but every time we look up at the news, there's Trump has snatched Maduro from Venezuela. There's the war with Russia and Ukraine. There's something going on with Iran. There's mention of Greenland being invaded by the United States. There's talk of China taking back Taiwan. I wanted to speak to you today to understand your perspective on the bigger picture here. What the hell is going on?
Well, what you're seeing is the final collapse of what people described as the post-World War II order, which then became the post-Soviet collapse order. So if you think about 1945, World War II finishes and the Cold War begins. So you go from World War II to two big major players in the world competing for dominance. And that lasts until 1991 when the Soviet Union collapses, at which point you get the unipolar world in which there's only one hegemony, only one country that's really setting the terms of what's happening in the world. The West lost its focus and its sense of purpose in 1991 because we were like, well, we defeated our great rival, communism, Soviet, Russia, etc. And then we kind of didn't really know what to do. And we took eye off the ball. And what's happening now is that entire framework that we have had since World War II is disintegrating very rapidly. This is why, you know, in light of recent events and the Maduro situation, you hear a lot of people talk about international law. International law was, I don't know if you've ever had Yuval Noah Harari on your show.
I have, yeah.
He wrote the book called Sapiens, in which he talks about the fact that almost everything that we live in, the world in which we exist, is a kind of shared myth that we have. And laws and money and all these things, they're agreements that we have between us to make things real that are not real. Money isn't real. That piece of paper has no value in your pocket, really, outside of the fact that other people have got together and agreed that it's money, right? Well, international law really was that, but even weaker than that, because if you think about what a law is something that has to be backed by not only the consent of the people who are involved, but also ultimately it's about the use of force, the legitimate use of force. Now, for international law, there's never been anything that could enforce that law other than the most powerful country in the world, right? So if China invades Taiwan, no one's going to do anything about it because there is no overall
trying to make women bow
marching authority with the military to be able to do anything about it. And so that shared fiction that we had, which we were living in a structured world in which everything is done according to the rules-based order, you might have heard that term being used, that is now gone. And Trump is acting in recognition of that reality. And he's saying, well, given that it's sort of every man for himself now, I'm going to do what's in the interest of the United States. Is it in the interest of the United States, for example, to have an openly hostile leader of a country close to the US, which is so destabilized that 7 million people have fled as refugees? Venezuela. Is it in our interest to have this person cozying up to Russia and China? Is it in our interest to allow him to have Hezbollah training camps on the island of Margarita? Is it in our interest? It's going back to the Monroe Doctrine, the idea that America does not allow foreign nations to meddle in its backyard, so to speak. And so what he's doing now is going, well, look, this is the world we live in. I'm going to do what's best for my country. And I think that's what you're seeing.
Is there a risk with this strategy?
Of course. There's a risk with every strategy. Of course, there's a risk with this strategy. The big risk inevitably with this strategy. And I think, as I talked about in my book, the West becoming weaker and emboldening our enemies, which is what we have done for a long time now, is creating an environment where
you are the reason why I even watched that guy, pimp.
We are opening ourselves up to challenge from other forces. Russia invading Ukraine was not an accident. It was not an accident. It was a consequence of the fact that Putin and other people in his leadership team felt this was the moment to test the waters. Can we now do the things we've always wanted to do?
And they felt they could do that under Biden, in your view?
Yes. But see, I wouldn't personalize it down to that level. I think far too many people get carried away with, Republican, Democrat, left, right, Biden, Trump. It's an ongoing process that's been going on for decades. And the culmination of it was first the invasion of Ukraine, then October 7th. October 7th was not an accident either. Hamas, backed by Iran, felt that this was their moment to act because, again, is the West going to be able to respond morally, militarily, and in other ways powerfully to that? They felt that they were able to test it. The fact that China now is openly talking about taking Taiwan is, again, another symptom of this same thing. So the risk is there. And of course, the risk as well is that, the crumbling Western alliance, we can talk about the reasons for it. I think it's really important to, particularly we're recording this in Britain and in Europe more broadly. I think that's an important conversation. The Western alliance is falling apart, and that is always going to be a risk. It's a particularly big risk for Europe, I feel.
How much of this, and before we go into the details and just catch up on a few things you said there, how much of this is linked to nuclear weapons? Because I was thinking, I can't really, all of these superpowers are going for countries that
for some reason, I fucking believe you,
that aren't armed with nuclear weapons. And it somewhat feels to me that the reason why the US wouldn't get involved if China took Taiwan is because they have nukes. And the reason why the US is a little bit intimidated by Russia is because they have nukes. So is it really the world is splitting into nuclear powers, and anyone with nukes can do what the fuck they want because they can basically wipe out planet Earth if they get angry?
And that has always been the case, except we've been constrained by the framework of...
Go ahead, set up the GoFundMe and drop the fucking cash out.
Of the rules-based order. But that got taken apart. And this is where I think the West and the United States, including, needs to take responsibility, because the war in Afghanistan and Iraq even more so completely undermined our moral credibility. You know, how can you say, well, Russia isn't allowed to invade Ukraine if you go around invading countries on a whim, making up excuses and reasons to do that? So we have eroded our moral authority, and we've also eroded our military strength and the potential that we have to inflict damage on people who misbehave, so to speak. So both of those things have come together.
It seems so crazy to me that in my lifetime, I'm seeing, because it's really never happened in the 33 years that I've been alive, I'm hearing a US president talk about kidnapping another president and then going in and taking the oil. And then, you know what, we might take Greenland as well. We might have that big country over there as well, even though it belongs to a NATO ally in Denmark. It feels like something has fundamentally changed.
It has.
And I'm scared of the precedents this is going to set, because do we then all just get to start taking countries we want?
Well, this is what happens when there is a shifting of the balance of power. This is why I always said maintaining the unipolar moment as it was and not allowing the West to weaken itself was a really important thing, because the moment you have a power vacuum, you always have a power struggle. Mexico is a very good example of this. If you look at what's been happening, there's been a gigantic drug war in Mexico for the last 20 years because there are different cartels vying for power. And the moment you take out the leader of one cartel or something happens, there's a bloodbath, because this is what happens when the central authority, the central power, the current system breaks down. You inevitably end up in a much more violent, much more unstable, much more unpredictable place. And all Trump really is doing is reflecting the reality that has been already there for years, except he's reflecting it in American foreign policy. He's saying, well, look, if Russia is going to do what it wants to do and we can't stop them, and if China is going to do what they want to do and we can't stop them, well, we've got to do what we've got to do, and no one's going to stop us. And that's the world you've ended up in. And by the way, just on the nuclear point, I think it's important to say, you're 100% right. And this is one of the things I've always said about not supporting Ukraine properly, which we haven't done. We have not supported them enough to be able to actually fully repel the aggression from Russia, is it would inevitably lead to lots of other small countries pursuing nuclear weapons, because it is the only guarantee of security in this world. That is a huge danger for the world in terms of nuclear proliferation, because if the precedent is, like you say, the people with nuclear weapons can do what they want and they can never be attacked, and the people with no nuclear weapons are vulnerable and weak, what would be the most rational thing for you to do if you're a smaller country? That's the big danger.
Because you were talking about a unipolar world and a multipolar world, but I wonder if it's going to be, how many nuclear powers are there? There's like 9 or 10. If the world is actually going to split into these 10 nuclear powers, and these 10 nuclear powers can basically do what they want.
Well, nuclear powers are different. I don't see Pakistan likely to be rampaging through its neighbors, not least because they're all nuclear powers themselves. I think you're talking about Russia, China, and the US primarily. I don't see Britain, re-invading France, although that's something obviously I'm in favor of.
If Pakistan decided to take a neighboring country, though, nobody can really come for them, because economic sanctions. Having
one nuke is not the same as having a gigantic nuclear arsenal. I think Pakistan is relatively constrained in its behavior, but the big superpowers are not so. By the way, retaking France was a joke. I just want to make that clear.
There's 9 nuclear powers. United States, Russia, UK, France, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, and Israel, although I don't think they admit it.
Yeah. Israel's policy on nuclear weapons is very funny. Do you know what their official position is? We don't have nuclear weapons, but if the state of Israel is at risk of being destroyed, we will definitely use them.
So how did we get here? What are the factors at play that brought us to this particular situation? You talked about the crumbling of the Western alliance and other things. What do we need to know about what happened for us to get to this state where it seems like it's every big power for themselves?
Well, partly we've already talked about it. So it's it's after 91 in particular, the West loses not only its sense of purpose, but it loses its sense of danger and sense of risk. So we get very comfortable. I don't know if you know this. Europe is 12% of the world's population, 25% of the world's GDP, and 60% of the world's welfare spending.
What's up, potential?
Wow.
So if you do that, that is a sign that you've got very comfortable. You've got very lazy. You have lost the ability to realize you live in a dangerous world. It's, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but it is an important addendum to this conversation. This is why European countries.
Hey, this fucking dude is smart though. I've noticed when I was listening, I was like, damn.
Have pursued economic suicide that we call net zero as vigorously as we have, because we have felt so safe and so comfortable. We've engaged in all this luxury obsessions, to the point where, as you know, Germany destroyed its nuclear facilities, thereby making itself reliant on Russian gas, so that when Russia invaded Ukraine, the Germans opened, the first thing that they said is, we were going to support Ukraine, we're going to give them 5,000 helmets. Right? Because they were so dependent on Russian gas, because they refused to produce their own energy. This is exactly the same thing we've done in Britain. Britain has the highest industrial electricity prices in the world, in the developed world, which means we basically destroyed all our manufacturing industry, which is now produced elsewhere.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point where we can't make our own virgin steel. Steel is kind of important if you want to have a military, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in Europe in particular, this has happened because we've just felt so safe and so comfortable and also so rudderless that we've been able to engage in all these loony ideas because there's been no consequence. Well, the consequences are here.
Where does Britain and Europe sit in the sort of rankings of importance in the world and power?
It's plummeting. I mean, look at the Trump's 12-day war in Iran, destroying Iran's nuclear facilities. No one even asked the British what we thought about it anymore. And that's not because, a lot of people like to say, the Americans, they hate the British. Americans love Britain. As you know, you live in America now. You have a British accent. I'm sure people come up to you all the time and talk to you about their connections with our country, the shared history, all of that stuff. The problem is we have made ourselves irrelevant because everything that Trump is looking at is strength, right? Is Britain strong now in the world? No. Is Europe strong now in the world? No. And so if you're not strong, you will not be taken seriously. And unfortunately, because of what our leaders have done over successive, and it's left, right, every political party that we have that's been in power, they have overseen a decline in our status in the world, in our power in the world, in our influence in the world, to the point now where the Americans are looking at Europe and they're going, why would we be allied with people who are not useful to us? An alliance is kind of like a marriage. Both people have to bring something to the table. What do we bring to the table from an American perspective?
I'm trying to pay off your loan.
Stop calling me. You sound like a psycho. I swear to God.
I'm calling.
This is a fairly new thing, isn't it? Because I remember growing up, I repeatedly hear the Prime Minister of the UK talking about how he had spoken to his US counterpart and they had made a decision. And then even with the Venezuela situation, I think Keir Starmer came out the next day and said, I had no idea this was happening.
Of course. But why would you consult with people who don't matter?
Why don't we matter?
We don't matter because we have nothing to bring to the table. We don't, despite the extremely high level of professionalism, our technological superiority, the courage of our soldiers and our sailors and our airmen, despite the immense military tradition Britain has, we have cut, our debt interest repayments annually are 1.5 times, heading towards being twice our defense budget. We spend more on paying off the debt, the national debt, every year than we spend on defense.
How did the UK get here?
Well, our debt to GDP is over 100%. We keep borrowing money. We talked about the disproportionate amount of welfare spending and social spending and so on. We got here by forgetting that we live in the real world and engaging in lots of luxury beliefs about what we ought to do. So we have the highest tax burden in peacetime history in this country. And we do that not because we want to have a robust military or to do other things like that. We do it so that we can continue to pay ourselves money we don't have, borrowing it from our children and our grandchildren. And this is the case across Europe, really. America also has a high level of debt, but they have a growing economy, unlike ours. Britain's GDP per capita is lower today than it was in 2006. We have per capita, which is what matters per person, we have less money today than we did 20 years ago. So our economy's declined. We've destroyed our manufacturing. We've run down our armed forces. And also, I mean, look, President Trump, I think is fair to say, is quite sensitive about what people say about him. We have a government now that very imprudently and unwisely spent the time they were in opposition shitting on him on a daily basis. David Lammy, who's our foreign secretary, if you take some of his comments about President Trump, they were just deeply irresponsible. Whatever you think about the rights and wrongs of what he said, someone who has the potential to be this country's foreign secretary in charge of our relationship with the United States cannot be so imprudent as to make those kinds of comments. And then you're going, well, you've just been calling this guy every name under the sun. And now you want to be relevant? You want to be taken seriously? You want to be engaged with as he makes huge decisions about geopolitics? Actions have consequences. And the actions we have been taking have produced the consequences that we've got. Now, look, I am not all doom and gloom about it. If we change our strategy and if we change our behavior, we can require a massive readjustment.
With the current direction of travel, where does the UK end up?
We're already there. We're irrelevant. We are irrelevant. When these, like you said, Venezuela happens, no one cares about us. When Iran gets bombed, no one cares about us. All the future big decisions about geopolitics are going to be made without Britain even being considered. Because it's going to be made by the major powers, of which Britain is no longer one.
You choose to live in the UK, despite your views that the UK is a bit of a sinking ship, I guess.
Because of my views, actually.
Because of your views?
Yeah, like, look, you've moved to the United States, which I'm grateful for because it's made us the biggest UK podcast in our space. I appreciate that. But as you can imagine, we get offers to do the same in all sorts of different ways. And we stay and fight for it and to articulate my views and try and persuade people to my point so that we can have a British recovery is my job, which I do not.
So you're hopeful?
I'm not despondent to the point of giving up, is where I am.
Are you hopeful?
No. No. But there is an opportunity to turn things around if everything comes together, and we're very fortunate. And that's what I'm hopefully trying to contribute to.
Through history, when companies pursue the strategy that the UK is currently pursuing, where does it end up economically?
Well, Stephen, you're the business guy. You tell me.
No, but I don't have the greatest view of history, and so I'm wondering if there's, because in the UK, I was born 33 years ago in Botswana, and I moved to the UK when I was young, and and the economy to be much better than where I'm from in Botswana. So it's almost could ever not be that.
Yes,
because it's always been in my lifetime.
Yes, but that is in many ways, I'm not pinning the blame on you, obviously, but that is in many ways how we got here, because what we thought collectively was, well, look, no matter what we do, we're always going to be Great Britain. We're going to have a great economy. We're going to have a strong military. We're going to have this. We're going to have influence in the world. And then we started doing lots of stupid ended up. So this country has every potential to be great. The people are incredible. The level of education, the scientific and technological advances that this country has produced, the cultural, look at the greatest bands in human history. Well, half of them are British. Comedians, I mean, stand-up comedy is not a British invention. It was actually invented in America. But look at some of the greatest comedians in human history. Again, lots and lots of British people. So culturally, scientifically, technologically, economically, we have the potential. We have been lacking for a long time. That's how we've ended up here. Can we turn it around? It's going to be very, very, very difficult, but we've got to try.
Why would these issues impact us on an individual level? So I'm thinking about the average person listening now, whether they are in the United States or here in Britain. This stuff happens kind of up above us. Well, this multipolar world, or the fall of Britain.
You are already poorer today than you were 20 years ago per capita.
In the UK?
In the UK.
Yeah.
That seems to me quite important. And in fact, many of our conversations about domestic issues, whether it's mass immigration and all of these other things, they're really proxies for that conversation. Because if the economy was growing and people felt richer, all of this stuff would become less important, right? Well, I think we'd agree with that. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, as I talked about, the multipolar world being by necessity more violent and unstable. We are going, I don't know when this will go out, but we're recording this in the middle of January. It's been like 2 weeks since the year started, and we've already seen crazy amounts of instability geopolitically already. Is that fair to say? Mm-hmm. So this will continue, and that will bleed through to domestic politics, because if you have to spend and so on and so on and so on. So the ramifications of this will be very impactful on everybody around the world, more on non-Western countries, because a lot of them are going to be in the front line of this in the way that I doubt we will be. But still, the consequences for us will be very significant.
And we're seeing, adjacent to this rise in socialism.
Yeah.
The conversation around socialism. Obviously, Mamdani has been elected mayor. But do you think this is at all linked to the bigger picture, this rise in socialism?
Yeah, in fact, I think, I wrote an article a long time ago called Why I Fear the Future, and I did a video based on it, in which I talked about something. It's interesting. I did a live show here in London just before Christmas, and I did a book signing, and one of the guys came up to me and he said, I've got 2 kids. They're both teenagers, daughter and a son, and I'm trying to pull the daughter in from the far left, and I'm trying to pull the son in from the far right. That's going to be the big challenge going forward, because the amount of chaos and instability and cultural upheaval that we've seen has produced a craving for order. And on the social, that's the right side. We must, get this. And on the other side, it's produced a sense of injustice and the pursuit of inequality. That's why you hear people talk so much about the rich, the rich, the rich, the rich. And, we eat the rich, we've got to redistribute all of this stuff, because particularly in the big cities, young people rightly feel that they can't really get on the housing ladder. They can't establish a family. Life is more difficult. So they reach for these very disproven, discredited, and completely unworkable solutions of the kind Mamdani will, of course, deliver. But it's because their sense of...
Yeah, when I heard him talking about like the finances and all, I was like, damn, this dude knows what he's talking about. But I just thought about you because of where he's from.
Their sense is that the future has been taken away from them. And in many ways, they're correct. Because, as I said earlier, we have been borrowing from our children and our grandchildren. We've been saddling with crippling debts on the entire economy. That will come to an end, and it's going to be them that is left to foot the bill, and it's going to be very painful. And partly they see that, and already they see that they just can't afford the life that they want. I do think in the United States, it's a much more contained phenomenon. I think Mamdani, and if you're around New York and 1 or 2 other big cities, it's not like the entirety of America is going socialist. But I think housing unaffordability is one. Another explanation, which I think is also powerful, is what's called elite overproduction, which is if you have, as Tony Blair did, this idea that 50% of the public should go to university for them, particularly in the age of AI, where they are the jobs that are being eliminated very rapidly. You then get a lot of people whose entitlement is up here.
Too, man. Anybody in marketing and like secretarial work and shit like that, that's the people I feel sorry for, because that's who AI is going to replace. They're not going to replace the people that actually do manual labor out in the field, but anybody who, does filing for a living, on bookkeeping, any kind of secretarial work, making appointments for doctor's office, all that shit's going to be AI.
And whose prospects are down here. That produces a tremendous amount of social disease as well.
I think this is a really important connected point on the subject of socialism and the rise of socialism that we will see is this point of AI. And when I listen to very, very smart people who are considered to be the godfathers of AI or CEOs who are building these technology companies, there seems to be a consensus that socialism will only increase because the job losses associated with AI are going to be pretty quick and pretty extreme. And one of them that most Brits won't understand is, I've said this a few times because I'm really trying to, it's like the first moment, eureka moment I think you have is in America. When I get in my car, I don't touch the steering wheel or the pedals, and it can drive me to Joshua Tree, which is like 2.5, 3 hours away, uninterrupted. And I say this because driving is like one of the biggest employers in the world. I think it is the biggest profession in the world. And London dealers will be allowed to do full self-driving here as well. And in such a world, delivery drivers, taxi drivers, Uber drivers are going to be without jobs. And we're seeing this huge rise in autonomous humanoid robots as well. And Elon's pay packet says that he will make 1 million of these autonomous robots and get them out into the world. And Jason Calacanis, who just visited Elon's factory, said there'll be 1 billion of these. And he thinks that we won't even remember Tesla for making cars. We'll only remember them for the robots they make, because these Optimus robots, which are coming, are going to be so consequential. And the last point here is a very good friend of mine. He runs this big sort of innovation accelerator in San Francisco. I visited the accelerator a couple of weeks back. And I said to him, why is everybody here, all these young founders, these 40, 50 young founders in your building called Effing, all working on robotics? And he goes, well, we've had all the parts for like 20, 30 years, but the expensive part was the intelligence.
The brain.
Yeah, the brain. He goes, now we have the brain. He said he showed me this arm, this robotic arm that had a frying pan on it that would cook for you. And in a box, it just cooks whatever you want in a box. And he goes, we've had all these parts for the last 30 years. That they were cheap. He goes, the intelligence part, the brain, would cost $20,000 or $30,000 just for this little robot arm. He goes, now it's like 2 cents.
Yeah.
And he says, so you're seeing this huge explosion in robotics. I don't think people understand what's coming.
No, going to San Francisco is eye-opening on 2 levels. Number one is like 1/4 to 1/3 of the cars on the road don't have drivers.
Yeah.
And just visually seeing that is so striking. But the other thing is talking to some of the people involved. There is although they will still say, and I think they're right, that like if we don't do this, China will, and so we've got to do this. But there's also a lot. I'm sure you've encountered. There's a lot of that going on in the AI space. And so it's going to be hugely impactful. I don't claim to know all the little details of how that will play out, other than to say it's going to be very disruptive. And disruptiveness has happened throughout human history. It's always produced a backlash. It's always caused a lot of disease, but then humanity has managed to recover. This is different level, and we will see how it plays out. But yeah, of course it's going to be, and yeah, a world in which millions of people no longer have jobs, and most of them are disproportionately young people who are more prone to extremism anyway. Yeah, that's not a pretty picture.
And one would assume that the wealth will accrue to a few.
Yes.
In such a scenario.
And what's funny is I have said, really experience, but in a world in which no one has a job, I'm like 100% for the communism.
No, it's a job. I hate these damn commercials.
Do you think that's the world we're heading towards?
Possibly. Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, like, if you think about it from the perspective of 50 people in the world have all the money in the world and everyone else has no job, I think a little bit early, or it's going to happen at the end. That's
when you say communism,
paid for existing, right? Well, I mean, what else is there? You're going to create fake jobs for people? That's not going to work, right? So if all the wealth in the world is going to be created by robots, a world in which the products of their labor, it only accrues to 50 people who had the idea or did the work 20 years ago, that's not going to sustain itself. And so it would be very, very unwise of those people to attempt to hold on to all that wealth. It would not end well for them, in my opinion.
On a personal level, this disruption is going to happen in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Are you thinking much about it or planning for it at all? Has it changed any of the decisions you make on a day-to-day basis or month-to-month basis?
Well, I'm very fortunate that I am probably a little harder to replace with a robot, just because people don't really want to hear robots' opinions, I would imagine. We might get to that point, but I think it's unlikely. So on my own level, I'm probably, the time scale I'm working to in the next 10 years, I imagine I'll get myself to a point where I'm going to be reasonably comfortable no matter what happens.
Taking forward 10 years and
yeah, it's just totally me, just unemployed, long, mate. I can't believe what happened. For my children, it's a very different conversation. So a lot of people are like, well, what should I teach my children? And people are, oh yeah. So I honestly don't know what that future looks like. And in many ways, that's always been the reality of life for most people. We are living through one of those great transitions in human history, in which all you can do is equip your children with the basic skill sets of life, as opposed to what might have been done 20, 30 years ago, where like you go to school to develop a skill, to go to university to build a career. Now you're going to have to show a lot of flex in this modern world. So you're going to have to be personable, you're going to have to be resourceful, you're going to have to be creative, you're going to have to go have a positive go-getter mindset. You're going to have those basics now down, as opposed to here's the career that you've been determined to have. Unless, of course, you go into AI and robotics, in which case you probably won't be replaced for at least 5 years.
I think there's something to the fact that there's an angst with AI. And when people listen to podcasts all the time, everyone who has a job in a big corporate environment now is being told by their CEO that you better learn AI or it's going to replace you. So we're living in this moment of there's like aliens coming over the horizon and we've spotted them. They're not quite here yet and they're coming for your job and everything you value. That angst in and of itself, I think, can drive people towards ideas like socialism, understandably.
Yeah,
because it's a deep existential angst.
And also a lot of the AI people, not all of them, a lot of them are being, but last time I was in New York, I was walking through Times Square, there was this giant billboard which said, it was the name of the company, which I don't remember, "Stop hiring humans, the age of the AI employees here." I'm going, have you really thought about this? Have you thought about putting you're going to have on a normal person looking at that? But they are so, the thing is with AI is the positive upsides of it are limitless, literally limitless. And so a lot of the people who are in that space, that's what they focus on. And they're like, we can solve cancer, we can solve medical problems. AI that's better than any physicist that can ever, or whatever. We don't need energy anymore. Like there are all sorts of crazy things that come out of AI that are potentially beneficial. And that is exciting. But the angst that you talk about, I think, is there. And I think it's also quite rational.
You just reminded me of a video that came out this week from Elon where he says this. I'll play it for you. I think it's this one's. So, Tesla, which are called Optimus, and someone's asking him how good they will be at surgery.
Do you think Optimus will be a better surgeon than the best surgeons? How long for that?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. Yeah. And by the way,
that's it. 3 years at scale.
Yes.
There will be more. There'll probably be more Optimus robots that are great surgeons than there are.
Sure.
All surgeons on Earth.
And the cost of that, but that's an important statement.
Not like absolutely something, but I'd say if you say like 4 years, I'll be absolutely.
If it's 4 or 5 years, who cares? It's still an
extreme precision.
Yes.
3 years. Yes. Better than any probably, I'd say if you like put a little margin on it, better than any human in 4 years.
Who's in plastic surgery.
By 5 years, it's not even close.
I think your point was medicine is going to be effectively free. The best medicine in the world.
Everyone will have access to medical care that is better. Yes, pointless.
Yeah.
More about this than I do. I would also say that I think both the incentive structure and his personal temperament lead towards a kind of.
But I wonder if AI gets to where it
and there's a sales dimension to this as well, obviously, because he's one of the people producing this stuff. So his optimism may be a product of the incentive structure that he's subject to. But even if it's not 3 years, I don't think it's more than 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's the time frame. And given how long it takes to train to become a doctor.
Yeah. Bro, I can remember
I want to talk about
a little kid, man, and watching TV. and seeing that stuff in the movies and shit, you know, and thinking, damn, one day we're going to have that shit. You know, I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and we went to this place called Wisconsin Dells, and they had this house that was computer controlled. Now, it didn't have a lot of functions, but I do remember it had lights that would come on with the computer and water and just different things and shit. And I told my mom then, I was like, one day.
Oh, the situation in Iran. We're seeing what one might call an uprising at the moment, where protesters are on the street in a country where it is very, very dangerous and also very brave.
You know, people couldn't believe back then that you could see somebody on a telephone, you know, and I'm sure y'all remember watching them TV shows where people were on the telephone and they would, like in the movies, they would have face-to-face contact in the movies. It was futuristic back then. And now we just used to being able to pick up the telephone and see somebody all the way across the world. It's crazy as shit if you really stop and think about it.
Protest against the leadership there. Where does this fit in the broader context? What the hell is going on?
I am not an expert on Iran, but effectively what's happening in Iran is an attempted counter-revolution. So they had a revolution in 1979. They overthrew the ruler, the Shah, and they replaced him with an Islamic dictatorship, which is what you've had since 1979. And the people of Iran have attempted to overthrow this Islamic dictatorship repeatedly. They've always been brutally suppressed, and that's basically what's happening now again.
And does this fit somewhere into the broader conflict of geopolitics and the US, the multipolar?
Well, only in the sense that you can see that even President Trump, who's talked quite brashly about what he might do if this sort of gets out of hand, is still not, as we speak, doing anything about it on a kind of kinetic level. And that's partly for the reasons that we talked about earlier, which is the United States is the United States public are deeply, deeply skeptical about foreign interventions. And so the idea that we, the West, would support a regime change in Iran is not something that you can sell to the American people right now. And so he has to be much more careful about what he might otherwise have done in Iran. And so because of that, the leaders of Iran probably feel like they're in a better position to crack down and survive versus what might have happened in the past.
I mean, Trump's been quite vocal in what he might do in his threats. He said that the US would come to the protesters' rescue, that we are locked, loaded, and ready to go. He announced that countries doing business with Iran faced a 25% tariff on their trade with the US, ramping up pressure. And he called for Iranians to keep protesting. And then more recently, he said, I've cancelled all meetings with Iranian officials until the senseless killing and protest stops. Help is on the way. MAGA?
Make Iran great again.
This is a chat GPT for Airbnb. This new income assistant is trained to find you semi-passive.
Well, Iran, I mean, one thing that should be said is the Persian Empire and the Persian people are a great people with a very rich history. And what's interesting is in attempting to I don't know if you've ever seen pictures from...
Let me ask y'all something. Ain't that where, I don't know what the hell I just did, but ain't that where a lot of spice comes from? And what the hell did I do? Ain't that where like a lot of the world's spices come from over there?
Tehran from before 1979. It's like women walking around in mini skirts and all the rest of it. So they have a very long history of freedom in a way that we don't tend to think of the Middle East as having today. And that's an example of how it's perhaps different from other parts of the Middle East. But you can see the reluctance to actually do anything about it, because the question is, well, let's say you do remove the current leadership. Let's say you bring back the son of the former Shah, Reza Pahlavi. He oversees a transition to some kind of democratic thing. Who is there protecting that process from being disrupted by the remnants of the old regime? Who's going to do that? Is there American boots on the ground? Because there's literally zero appetite for that in America. That's the challenge that I think he faces, which is probably why he hasn't done anything.
And how do you think the story plays out?
No idea, mate. No idea. I have no idea what's going to happen here. I fear, unfortunately, that what the regime will do I'm not saying this is what will happen, but my fear is, and it's one of the reasons that I sympathize so deeply with the Iranian people that are rising up against their oppression, but I am wary of encouraging them unless we are willing to back them fully. This is exactly in the way that what happened with Ukraine. There was a lot of rah, 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 and there was not nearly enough support to actually help them defend their country. My fear is there will be a lot of rah, rah, rah. We support the Ukrainian people. We stand with them, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, the regime will kill more of them, and it will kill enough of them for this to go away. That's my worry.
Well, I hope the world does come to the support of the Iranians. I really do.
Me too.
Because for all the reasons you've said, beautiful country, beautiful people, and
they deserve to be fucking free, man. Think about that. Every day we're free to make our own choices. Them people over there are not. I thank God every day that I'm born an American and I had the right and to be able to choose what I do. Over there, they don't have a choice. They do what the fuck they're told to do. And I think a lot of Americans miss that. And that's one of the reasons why it's hard to get behind the war in Iran, is because we're so spoiled over here. We don't realize what we do have. A lot of us take it for granted every day.
It's horrific to see what's going on. There's varying estimates. It's unfortunately we don't have accurate numbers because
nobody, perish. But sometimes, man, you got to do what's right for the common good of man. And I think that's another thing that we've lost. We're not worried about nobody but ourselves. And I just don't believe that God really intended it to be that way.
I mean, the internet is down and it's always hard to get accurate numbers in this situation, but I've heard estimates ranging from 2,000 to 18,000 people being killed.
Yeah.
And it's inconceivable, I think, for Westerners like us to understand what it is to live in an environment like that.
Which is why they're protesting as courageously as they are. I just hope that the geopolitical realities allow us to support them in the way that we keep saying we would. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And this is
my big worry. We have done a lot of this. We stand with you. We support you. And then when push comes to shove, the realities of the thing come into play, and suddenly we're a lot more careful about it.
Trump seems to walk the walk more so than others.
Absolutely.
And he seems to, it's funny because I think it was Biden that said to China that if they took back Taiwan, he would get involved.
So let me stop this.
Trump didn't say that. He's kind of, I was looking at some quotes from Trump and it seems
going on. America may have been just launched a ground attack on Iran. Let's see what's going on here. We'll finish watching that up. Add this to the stage here. Let's see what Dave's got to say here.
Great, wherever you're watching from today. I'm filming this on July 12th. All information is up to date as of July 12th, and I unfortunately have to report it appears Iran has launched a horrifying and brutal attack against U.S. positions in the Middle East, following multiple exchange of fire between the United States and Iran. We might have multiple direct missile impacts on an American position. American fighter jets are scrambling and dropping bombs at this hour in response to the attack, as well as more attacks in the region. So we got a lot to get into. This situation is very fluid. It is developing at a rapid pace. Before we get into it, please make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if you want to see us bomb. Let me know in the comments below. Hit the notification bell. All notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then Instagram, David_Hookstead, X D Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are wide open. Reach out with whatever you got. Now let's get into it. So this is news breaking today, this afternoon on July 12th. Depending on where you are watching, it's where I am right now. It says initial reports say 3 Iranian ballistic missiles hit an ATACMS launchers used in last night's U.S. strikes against Iran. Of course, ATACMS are the Army Tactical Missile System. They are a long-range missile launcher. We are now hearing reports, as you can see on your screen, and I will make the photo big, massive smoke columns coming from the alleged American position of the ATACMS. We do not know, as of this recording, if anyone was hit. We do not know exactly where the missile landed, if the missile systems were destroyed. This is live breaking news as it is coming in, but we have evidence on the ground that multiple missiles did strike and did hit. So right here, it says more footage. Smoke rises over Kuwait after several Iranian ballistic missile impacts. Iran-linked accounts claim the strike targeted U.S. ATACMS launchers used against southern Iran overnight.
Welcome to Iron Beam, the future of futures trading.
We drafting
with our
Dave.
cutting-edge chart trading feature.
So you can see the fire, you can see the smoke. And that allegedly is the site of the U.S. ATACMS in the region in Kuwait. And Kuwait, we got more information. They have taken some hard hits, but another video showing the damage. You can see heavy smoke in the distance right there, following what appear to be multiple direct impacts from Iranian ballistic missiles. And the U.S., trust me when I say, did respond. We're going to get to that later in the video. You don't want to miss it. But now we also have information. Satellite imagery shows direct Iranian missile and drone hits on a hangar at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. So Qatar also taking direct hits. This is a very serious situation. It looks like several missiles got through, missiles or drones got through the air defenses in the region, punched through. Now, Kuwait didn't just get hit at the alleged site of the ATACMS, the American missile site, but it says the Kuwait's Ministry of Defense reports that 3 northern land checkpoints on the border with Iraq and an offshore drilling platform affiliated with the Kuwait Oil Company were attacked earlier today. Today is July 12th, resulting in material damages and injuries. Kuwait is currently on the highest state of readiness with its military. So Iran went and bombed Kuwait's oil and energy infrastructure, an offshore drilling site. Yep. Now you know that this is about to be off to the races, because once the Iranians start bombing oil infrastructure, you can guarantee other countries are going to do the exact same in retaliation. So right here we have another ship has also been bombed in the Strait of Hormuz, according to the IRGC. The IRGC has announced that they have hit another ship. And then right here, we have footage of the Iranian attack against Bahrain and Kuwait. This was the first leg of the attack, not the attack on the ATACMS, the alleged position of them. I do want to say alleged. This is from the first leg video just coming out now, showing the drone launches. And then we're going to get into the U.S. response. So that is footage shared by the IRGC of the drone strikes in the first leg of this attack. Now, the U.S. military already scrambling fighter jets and striking back after the attack against us. Shin reporting 10 to 11 projectiles hit military targets on Qeshm Island. The Islamic regime claims there have been no casualties, but several explosions heard in Qeshm a few minutes earlier. So explosions are rocking Qeshm Island at this hour. That is one of Iran's most critical islands. It is getting absolutely pounded right now. And it says smoke rises from a number of sites targeted by the U.S. military in the last hour on Iran's Qeshm Island in the Persian Gulf. You see the smoke in the sky. Look at that. That is after the U.S. bombs hit Qeshm Island in retaliation for the strikes on the U.S. and the bombing of the ships in the Strait of Hormuz. And then right here, another look at the smoke rising from Qeshm Island as we continue to drop bombs in the situation. The gloves are off. And Barak Ravid reporting, U.S. official tells me the U.S. military conducted an hour ago a few strikes on a missile and air defense systems, as well as IRGC small boats along the Strait of Hormuz. So we have had multiple attacks on all sides rolling out throughout the day. And then U.S. Central Command saying the Strait of Hormuz is open to all vessels seeking to lawful. Because remember, earlier today, I made the video about this. Iran declared the Strait of Hormuz closed. Now, again, they have just reported they have bombed another ship. But U.S. Central Command saying the Strait of Hormuz is open to all vessels seeking to lawfully transit the international waterway. U.S. forces are positioned and prepared to ensure that freedom of navigation remains available despite unwarranted Iranian aggression, harassment threats, and arbitrary declarations. Iran does not control the strait. Traffic is flowing. And then furthermore, Iran commander for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy said on state-owned media that no foreign vessels may pass. And then the U.S. saying, in fact, Iran does not control the strait. It remains an international waterway. U.S. forces are prepared and positioned to keep it that way. Well, we're going to find out whether or not it is, because they're continuing.
Of course, the computer's going to say Iran don't control it because it knows it's international waterway. That's not a fact check. The fact is they're bombing people's ass when they go
continuing to blow up ships, and traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has crawled to a stop. And then right here, a U.S. aircraft carrier continues to push north around Oman, closer and closer into the Persian Gulf, to get closer to Iran, to continue carrying out strikes. And then we do have an update on the alleged plot. According to Israel Channel 13, the intelligence that Israel gave the U.S. included an intercepted conversation from a senior Iranian regime official who said in relation to the assassination plot against Trump, "This is our chance now. This opportunity will not come again." The plot was supposed to take place in Turkey while Trump was at the NATO summit. Remember, they switched planes. They went from the new Air Force One to the old Air Force One because the old Air Force One has better defense capabilities. And then lastly, I do just want to touch on this. Obviously, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham passed away today. I'm not going to get into it. It looks like a horrifically tragic situation. He appeared to be in fine health and then did pass away. I actually said to some people, I guarantee you the Iranians will take credit for this, whether it's true or not. We have no evidence to suggest it's true. Well, lo and behold, Iran released a video, one of these Lego videos. I'm not even going to play it because I'm not going to give them the satisfaction, but essentially implying that they are responsible. I would encourage everyone to take these Iranian claims worth a grain of salt. They are doing this because they want attention. They want to be able to message. Again, take it worth a grain of salt until we get a full investigation and a full autopsy. There's no reason to believe the Iranian claims about this. So as of me filming this on July 12th, Iran has launched a horrifying attack against U.S. positions and U.S. forces. The U.S. responding immediately with massive airstrikes against Keshem Island. I will continue to monitor the situation as it unfolds throughout the day. As always, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you all next time with more updates.
We're going to play it. Let me find it again. Let's see here. He said he wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. Well, let's see what kind of creepy shit they done put out. Let me ask y'all this though, right? If the IRGC fucking wanted to take one of them out, you think they'd make him have a heart attack? No, they'd just shoot his ass and go on. What an idiot. What's up, 88? How they could even try to claim that is crazy, but whatever. Eric usually has some pretty spot on. Update. New York Times reporters have been subpoenaed after reporting that President Trump had to change to the old Air Force One in Turkey due to security reasons. Why they would leak that, I have no idea. You're talking about the safety of your fucking president anyway. The way that these news people do, man, is fucking crazy.
To the northwest side of the Strait of Hormuz.
I told y'all they was gonna bypass that fucking strait.
And all of this follows
it only
a
makes
fresh
sense.
round of airstrikes that are confirmed there is confirmed by the U.S. Central Command. The U.S.
Massive
sea-based and
pipeline
land-based
just
fighter
to
jets, as
bypass
well as
it.
drones and munitions fired from ships, were all used in the attack. The U.S. says the targets included missile, drone sites, naval capabilities, and sites used for surveillance. 140 targets were hit in last night's round of strikes. That latest round of strikes was triggered by Iran firing on another commercial ship crossing the Strait of Hormuz. A ship flagged out of Cyprus was hit. There was a fire on board and damage to the engine room. At last report, the ship was immobile and stuck in the strait. A crew member, a man from India, is now missing. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth posted, Iran made a poor choice. Now they pay.
Yeah, I could kind of see them bypassing that strait anyway. 500 miles of pipeline would take, I don't know, probably a year or so to complete. You figure they do 2 or 3 miles of pipe a day. Now that's busting ass once they get everybody over there. But as soon as they bypass it, oil will not only continue to flow, but it'll fall. The prices of it will fall. Oh shit. They serious about that Georgia election shit. They gonna end up fucking them people up behind that shit.
Of terrorists, and these terrorists don't care what they blow up. They blow up anything and everyone. Okay,
This is crazy. When I seen this, I was like, "What in the fuck does this dude? Why in the hell is he even contacting anybody from Iran? They're gonna end up taking him out of office."
On the other hand, Iran likes to sponsor proxy groups of terrorists, and these terrorists don't care what they blow up. They blow up anything and everyone. Okay, this is who we're dealing with. Okay, this is an Iran that not long ago, through their Hezbollah proxies, blew up a Jewish center in Argentina and killed a bunch of people. This is an Iran that innovated the use of roadside bombs that killed and maimed a bunch of people.
You know, I really do find it hard to believe that a place like New York City that experienced 9/11, that from the leader however you pronounce it, Bin Laden was a Muslim, Islamic, and they're going to vote an Islamic mayor? Like, what the fuck is going on, man? How brainwashed are people? This is a Christian nation. This place was built underneath Christianity. If you want to be here, fine. But it is predominantly Christian. You cannot turn this place into what you left. If you want to be in that kind of environment, go back to the shithole you fucking came from. You know, that's part of the reason why I do believe, honestly, and I know a lot of y'all do too, that they have made people so fucking weak and have brainwashed people with this fucking internet. You got men that's cutting their wangers off trying to be fucking women. Like, I don't give a shit about you being gay and what your sexual preferences is, but you're still a fucking man. You were born that way. I do not get it, man.
A bunch of other people. This is an Iran that has organized the assassinations and the attempted assassinations of people all over the world, including, civilians. And
You know what's sad, British Bulldog? If a true-blooded American was to take the mayor in New York City out, they'd still charge him.
There is no nation on earth that sponsors more terrorism than Iran, and they've spent millions and millions of dollars sponsoring terrorism and targeting individuals all over the world, and including civilians have been caught up in that. Okay, that's what Iran has done. They didn't spend their millions and millions on building roads and bridges and improving the life of their people. That's why their people are always in the street protesting, because their economy's been in shambles, because they don't invest in their economy. They would rather invest in Hezbollah. They would rather invest in the rapists and the murderers of Hamas. They would rather invest in those groups than they do in their own people. That's what Iran invests in. And that's what that's what you should be asking me about. That's what the BBC should be covering. And that's what these other media outlets should be covering, is how evil these people are in Iran and the damage they've done to people all over the world. The world's leading sponsor of terrorism is Iran. And look what they're doing now. They are holding hostage civilian vessels, including ships that have now been stuck in the Persian Gulf. They've laid mines in an international waterway. And yet, despite all of that, the United States remains committed to finding a diplomatic solution to this crisis. But let's be clear who we're talking about here. We're not talking about some pacifist government over there, or some pacifist regime. We're talking about one of the most vicious regimes on the face of the earth and in modern history. That's what we're dealing with. And we were going to take away their missiles. We were going to take away their ability to make new ones. And we were going to wipe out their Navy. Imagine if they had a real Navy. What they have now is a bunch of small little speedboats that can lay mines and harass vessels. But they used to have a Navy. Now that Navy resides at the bottom of the ocean. And that was the objective of Epic Fury. As far as the question.
So they're saying they're bombing the headquarters in the Qatar capital right now. Iran is, if you believe what they post on X, but who knows?
Not only do they support this bill, but they understand that it ought to take preeminence. It ought to take precedence over other legislation we should be supporting right now. So I think that's where the disagreement lies, is in the vision that we can pass this, even though we don't yet have 60 votes. We do have a simple majority. And on the technique, the method by which we bring it about. But it does take effort and some creative thinking. We can get it done.
Well, you've got what, 8 legislative days or 20 legislative days in the Senate and eight legislative days in the House before the next recess. I know Mike Johnson is talking about a third reconciliation bill, but again, John Thune says, stop talking about a third reconciliation bill to colleagues when he's talking with them privately.
Yeah, look, first of all, we have control over how many legislative days we have left. It need not be that short a period of time. We could choose to work through weekends, through scheduled recesses, and frankly, we should. Especially when something like this comes up, where we see a massive vulnerability in our election security. That affects not only potentially the outcome of elections, but also the way in which they're perceived. When we see something like that, and we have a ready, popular, widely accepted, widely supported solution, we need to re-examine our own practices, even our own schedules, in order to get it done. We can do that, and we must.
Well, this is a good.
These motherfuckers is crazy, man. They're saying they hit the Ford too now. Bullshit. In honor of the remarkable life and achievements of Senator Lindsey Graham, a dear friend of mine and a truly great man who achieved so much for our country in his beloved home state of South Carolina, I am ordering all American flags throughout the United States lowered to half-mast until Saturday evening at 6 p.m. God bless you, Lindsey.
For it. And there are a lot of folks time. I know that right now we're all just stunned that this has happened. Nobody was ready for it. And there are a lot of folks mourning across the state of South Carolina and across the country tonight.
Longer term, he was on the ballot this fall. You ran for governor. Are you considering running for his seat eventually?
I would say right now, my focus is on South Carolina. I think we're all still just sitting here stunned. And
Well, they
shocked
can't
that
wait
this
to
has
take
happened,
over his
and we're
fucking.
mourning his loss. I'm never going to shut the door. I love the state of South Carolina. You only live once. And, if the people of South Carolina would like me to serve in that capacity, I'll certainly take a look at it. But right now, I just
round of strikes against Iran in response to Iranian forces attacking a Cyprus-flagged container ship in the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM says the U.S. is degrading Iran's ability to attack ships, and the strikes are being carried out at the direction of the commander-in-chief. Tom, let's go right back to you on this. Central Command just announced they began a third round of strikes against Iran in response to Iranian forces attacking a Cyprus.
How much more longer you think this shit's gonna go on? I wish I could figure it out, but I guess they probably, this shit's probably just going to keep happening.
It's like he's basically like, well, if they take Taiwan back, I ain't going to get involved. But in other instances where he warns countries that he'll bomb them or take action, like Venezuela or like Iran with the nuclear weapon situation, he does seem to follow through. And Marco Rubio and Hegseth were saying the other day in the interview I was watching that, listen, when is the world going to learn? If Trump says something, he's going to do it. And, him saying that we will come to your rescue.
Well, hopefully they come through on that, but also hopefully they have a plan for what happens after that.
Yeah.
And this is the mistake we've obviously made in a number of countries: Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, which is now basically headed by a jihadi.
Yeah.
Right. Where we go, oh, yeah, we've got to remove this terrible guy. And this terrible guy, and we're right to remove him. But then what do you end up with afterwards? So if they do help the Iranian people, which I hope they have the plans to do, then I hope they have a plan for what happens after that and how you get Iran to a position where the people of Iran get to choose their own leaders and those leaders stay in power. And those leaders are the sorts of people that you might want to see in charge, because this happened in Egypt. They have the Arab Spring, they overthrow the evil dictator, and what do? They elect the Muslim Brotherhood. And then the people go, no, we need the military back, etc. So these are not easy problems to solve, which is why people are being careful about it. So I hope they have a plan and a solution for what comes after, if they in fact act.
And Trump's also talking about taking Greenland, which is the first time I heard him say that, I thought he was joking. Yeah. I thought this is just a funny Trump. When he was talking about taking Canada.
Yeah.
He was calling it the great state of Canada. I thought this was him just joking.
Yeah.
But in more recent times, in the last week, I heard him say in an interview, we're going to do it the easy way or the hard way. Words to that effect.
Your next breakdown could cost thousands.
Unless you have endurance. I will never.
Yeah, they're saying
what's going on?
Actually,
we're talking about
that right now in fucking Virginia. These motherfuckers are claiming that they bombed it.
They're trying to protect their sphere of influence in North America and South America, and they want to have
it's coming.
The military bases there that they want to have there. They want to have the resources and act.
He's bombing it so hard right now so he can soften it up to put ground troops in. So from what I understand, they've got like 50 or 60,000 troops in the area right now. It's coming.
Just to that.
Are we returning to empires?
We never left them, but this is the great thing. We've been living in the dream world. We've been pretending these things haven't been going on the entire time.
I didn't know he was in
They
Russia.
have. The world's always been like this.
That's why the FBI is investigating it, then. That's why I opened up with. I was like, if he had a heart attack, why not just let the damn autopsy tell you what happened? But supposedly the FBI is investigating it, and I didn't know he was in Russia. Why in the fuck would you go to Russia for?
It was a brief moment after World War II when it wasn't like this, because we were fighting the Soviet Union.
I will say this, though. He was 71 years old. Pretty old, man. If I last another 10 years, I'll be thankful. I don't think I will, to be honest with you. I feel worse and worse every day.
And the Soviet Union, the battle in the Cold War was very similar. There was proxy wars all over the place between those two great powers, right? Now, there's two different great powers and a third smaller power in Russia.
He wasn't.
And India is rising as well, who are all trying to make their moves. And all Trump is doing is saying, well,
okay, my bad.
We are not going to play by the fake rules anymore that no one else is playing by anyway.
And so is Trump endeavoring to take that part of the world, take control of that.
Take control, yeah. In many ways, it's what every great power seeks to do, is to control its neighbors so that they don't have foreign influence in their backyard, so that they have the strategic advantage in that area. It's the way of the world.
I mean, I didn't hear this rhetoric for the other 30 years of my life.
Yeah.
As explicitly.
Yeah.
And when you say multipolar, what are the poles?
Well, it's the US and China.
Yeah.
Are the two. Russia wants to claim it's a third one. And then you will see the rise of India, I think, over time as well. India is a lot more sensible about these things, about the way that they're developing.
And is the multipolar world a good thing or a bad thing, or is it just indifferent?
For whom?
For, let's do people living in Europe.
I think it's likely to be a very bad thing for people living in Europe. Because we become less powerful, less wealthy, less relevant, for the reasons we've already discussed. We could change it if we wanted to.
How?
We could abandon our suicidal economic policy. So we could have economic growth again, which would increase our share of GDP. We would make our people more prosperous. It would help to quell domestic unease, part of which has been created by mass immigration. People care about that more because they're poorer, right? If we were growing, then everybody's a little bit happier. It's like you move to LA, the sunshine is nice, everybody's a little bit happier. When you're getting richer, everybody's a little bit happier. So that's one of them. The second one is you've got to recognize that the huge waves of immigration we have had have brought some positives. They've also brought a tremendous amount of cultural instability. People feel like their country is changing. They never voted for it. In fact, they repeatedly voted against it. So you have to arrest the sense that our country is ceasing to be one place, and instead we're becoming different communities, right? The this community, the that community. Instead, we've got to go to a place where we're all British, or we're all American, or we're all French, or whatever it is. We've got to integrate fully the people who have already arrived. And to do that, you have to make sure you don't continue to have the same scale of inflows that we've had. You have to deal with illegal immigration. You have to stop that from happening, because that
Bro, how crazy would it be if that's the truth, Smart Mouth, if that really is what happened?
Really affects how people feel about sense of fairness and a commitment and loyalty to their country. One of the reasons, if you talk to young people, they'll say they're disillusioned, they won't fight for their country, etc., is they feel like, well, their country doesn't care about them.
I'm afraid when they do wake up, it's going to be all hell. All hell's going to break loose.
Bringing in people that it's paying to have a house and so all the rest of it, while they can't get on the property ladder. So you've got to deal with immigration as a whole package. Then you have to rebuild your military. You have to rebuild your military capacity. And then you have to understand the new world in which we live and really pick a team and say, which alliances are we going to nurture? In my opinion, the best thing Britain could do is to nurture the alliance with the United States, to make itself relevant within that alliance in the ways that I've already talked about, and then join forces with the US and recognize that we have very similar interests in a lot of things. And if we were prepared to act like it, then we'd be in a much better place. And also, you've got to have more kids. A lot more kids.
Why?
If you look at, forget about the moral kind of sensibilities and politically correct stuff about it, the more people you have, the more powerful you are. Compared to all other things being equal, right? A country with more people is more powerful than a country with fewer people, just if everything else is the same. But more importantly, we're in a demographic death spiral. And this is one of the reasons we have had mass immigration. Politicians won't tell you the honest truth of it. But the real reason is they keep bringing in hundreds of thousands of people. Is if they don't, we will see the reality, which is that we're getting poorer all the time. But if they bring in a mass of people from outside, they can say that the economy is growing, not because it's growing on a per capita basis, but because you've simply added more people to the population. And if this seems abstract, think about it like this. Let's say you have a family, you, your girlfriend, and you've got 2 kids, right? And your total household income is £100,000 a year, let's say, for the 4 of you. Now, let's say you bring in your in-laws, they live in the same house, right? They don't earn anything. Let's say they earn 10 grand a year each. So now your household income is 120,000. So you've got richer, haven't you? No, you've now got 6 people to spread that money over. And now you're per person a lot poorer. That's what British and European leaders have done so that they could pretend that we're not getting poorer all the time. That's why they've done it. This is what they say. We need people to come and do the jobs. That's what they mean. They mean we need to bring in more people so we can tell you the economy is growing by 0.3% while you've been getting poorer. So you've got to address the economic side of this as well, of the demographic thing. And the third thing, actually, is societies with lots of kids are just much more dynamic than societies without them. You know, you get very stale when you've got too many older people. You need that young energy, that young blood. You need young people. You need children around. And then they will, of course, be the next generation that drive things forward. So, you know, we've got to have loads more kids.
All right, boys, pop quiz. What's your plan to lose the belly? You either get it right or you're getting dunked. What are we going to
New Year always has a strange energy to it because people start talking about their goals, fresh starts, and new habits. But the reality is that most people carry the same ideas they had last year into the new year. I'm guilty of that too. And they still don't end up doing anything with them. And I get why. Starting something new, especially if it's a
specific person. I don't think he's doing a good job for the reasons that I told you. We've got the highest tax burden in peacetime history. So he's driving business through the floor. I know that you and I have never spoken about this, but I bet you could name 50 people off the top of your head who've left the UK to go to other places, who run businesses. You're nodding, right? For people listening.
Yeah.
Well, why is that happening? Because the business climate here is not good.
Mm-hmm.
The taxes here are very high. And also the quality of life here has declined.
And generally, you know, I think maybe the first point you said about climate, there's a pessimism.
Yes. Why is that? Why is that?
It's self-fulfilling.
Yes.
It's like a self-fulfilling pessimism where founders who are in my portfolio that I've invested in will come to me and say, hi, you know, we've just sold 10% of the business for 20 million.
Yeah.
And then the next sentence will be their escape plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't used to happen even 10 years ago.
And that's because of government policy. That's the only way that this happens, right? Because if the government, A, keeps taxing you up to your eyeballs, and B, keeps telling you that you are evil, which is what it does, right? If you're rich in Britain, you are evil. That's the algorithm we have. And we treat successful people, we immediately assume that they're privileged people. My pet theory is that this goes back to the landed gentry. The idea that in this country, if you were rich, there was a time when that was almost certainly because your dad was rich, or at least people thought that. And so this sense that if someone is successful economically, financially, it's probably because they've benefited from some sort of ill-gotten privilege. It permeates everything. In America, people don't feel that way. They go, you've been successful because you've worked really hard and you've had a great idea. I'd love to learn from you. I'd love to be more like you. In Britain, we go, you've been successful. You know, we got to tax you. So if the government keeps taxing you and then telling you you're a bad person while you pay the overwhelming share of the taxes in the country, it's not a great place to be. You know, if I come home tonight and my wife says, yeah, you earn all the money, but you're a dick and I don't like you, and after a while, you sort of go, well, if this isn't working, I'll go somewhere where I'm wanted. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of the most driven, the most talented, the most successful, the most creative people. And so we're driving out the business, we're driving out the entrepreneurs. Then on the industrial side of it, we talked about it before, net zero basically means that any energy intensive business is completely unviable in Britain. And I'm sure you've seen this with AI and lots of other things. You go to where you can do your business. Then on top of that, you add regulation, particularly in Europe, which restrict your ability to do things again. So there's this, and it doesn't have to be like that. It wasn't like that in the 90s in this country, right? There was a positive go-getter business climate, and you can do that again. You just have to have a leader who is willing to do that. And Starmer is the opposite of that. And part of the reason is that they simply can't do anything about the fact that we are spending huge amounts of money keeping lots and lots of people trapped in welfare in many ways against their interest, and actually in some ways I would argue even against their will, because, and I've made this point before, if you said you're a very driven person, I'm a very driven person, but when I was in my early 20s, if you'd said to me, you don't need to work, you know, I know you're feeling a bit depressed, as I was in my early 20s. I wasn't sure where I was doing with life. You're a bit depressed. You're a bit anxious. I remember going to apply for a job and just sweating buckets because I was so anxious, right? Well, you've got anxiety. You've got depression. You can't work. We'll give you 20 grand a year and you can just, you know, we'll write you off and you just sit at home, play on the PlayStation, smoke weed. I would have taken that. Most people would have taken that. And that's the position we have put a lot of our young people in. We just write them off, we give them benefits, and we forget about them. And that welfare bill has become unsustainable, but it's also uncuttable. The Labour government tried to cut it. They tried to reform welfare, and their own backbenchers revolted, and they caved. And they said, no, we're not going to reform welfare. We're going to tax the rich because the rich, you know, don't pay enough tax. When in the reality, I think you maybe look this up. The top 10% of taxpayers in this country pay, I think, more than half of all the tax. Probably significantly more than half of all the tax. But look it up. I think the top 1% pay 33% of all the tax. Fact check me on this.
Okay, so the top 10% of taxpayers pay 60% of all income tax.
And also, what's the other one?
But I appreciate other people's point of views on these topics, right? Because I don't know them. The Five in Society. Let's see what. Let's hold up.
All of the things which I think as we said earlier, probably came from this Democrat period, but it's been happening for a long time. I think if you look at the Labour Party, again, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Fabian Society.
No.
So the Fabian Society was set up in the 1880s. And it was basically most of the Labour frontbench and most of the Labour Party are members of the Fabian Society. So the Fabian Society, George Bernard Shaw was a member of the Fabian Society. You'll have heard of George Bernard Shaw. So it's the most extraordinary organization. Their emblem is a wolf in sheep's clothing. As if that doesn't tell you what they're doing.
That's their emblem?
So
can I see what that looks like?
That's their emblem. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Fabian Society?
The Fabian Society.
I need to see that.
You should have a look at that.
I might have to get a t-shirt.
And shall I tell you what else they were?
I need a t-shirt.
Shall I tell you what else they were? They were eugenicists originally.
Whoa.
Yes.
When?
Well,
how far back?
George Bernard Shaw.
Look at that. That is damn crazy.
Well, everyone should look at the Fabian Society because that runs deep through the veins of Labour.
That is damn crazy.
What do you think of that?
That is damn crazy. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just listening to this Fabian Society coat of arms is really a black wolf that has a sheep's body strapped on top of its back. And it's like covering its body. This is insane. That's crazy. What a complete disdain for anybody else's intelligence. Like they're not even trying to hide it. They're just like
they're all members. The front bench are all members of the Fabian Society. So
that coat of arms.
Keir Starmer is also a member.
I need a t-shirt, Jamie. Please order it.
You want to hold in? you want a Fabian Society t-shirt?
Yeah, just for a goof. I think it'd be hilarious.
But no, so that runs through the Labour Party. So that's all part of it. So I think the agenda has been, to your point, they're infiltrated our education system. And, I'm proud of our history. I mean, Britain stopped the slave trade. It cost us a fortune. We did it almost unilaterally. And, I think on the whole have been a force for good in the world, not bad. I'm proud to say that. I've studied a lot of history. I think there are many other cultures, probably the Belgians and the French, who are far more brutal than us with their colonies. So I think we've tended to leave a legacy where we've tried to instill the rule of law. Look at India. Look at a lot of the other countries that we were involved with. they're now flourishing because of the structures that we left in place. And it's very sad to watch us almost turning in on ourselves and having left the legacy in other countries. We ourselves have lost sight of what we should be doing.
It's just, it's really extraordinary seeing the perspective of a lot of young people that are very impressionable that come out of universities and have an utter, complete disdain for these successful societies. And instead of looking at these successful societies and saying, well, yeah, people were really terrible in the past, but this is a pretty good example of how people should be treated equally today. No, it's not perfect, but it's progressing in a better direction than it was in the past, right? Instead, they look to the past and everything is built on this horrible history of outrageous, atrocious acts, and therefore it must be punished currently. And all the people that benefited from it, specifically white people, need to be cast out. They need to be silenced. Multiculturalism is the only way to go. Complete open borders. Like the way they look at things is like, how do you think these countries got so good? Like, what do you think is about America or about England, about any of these countries that leads them to be where they are today? Well, it's a long history of progress, a long history. And along the way,
I hope we don't get struck watching this, but
yeah, like especially when you go back hundreds of years ago, people were fucking terrible.
You know, that's something else too I find crazy, right? Just like with Elon Musk, they wanted to fucking ban him burning his cars down and shit for something that he didn't even have nothing really to do with. I don't know. That shit was just crazy, man. But yet they want to take advantage of his technology, don't they?
They're terrible everywhere. You know, humans are just getting better at being people, like pretty recently. But to throw it all out and abandon it and to think that socialism is going to fix you. Like, do you guys read anything? There's not a single example of that not turning to tyranny. And their take on it is always, it hasn't been done correctly. And that is so wild that people are still willing to swallow that. And the only thing that makes sense is they've been indoctrinated through universities to think this way. Because nowhere in the real world do you think that equality of outcome ever makes any sense? Because everybody realizes somewhere along the line, when you get your first job, when you're a kid, when you're going through school, when you're playing sports, there's not equality of effort. There's never equality of effort. And there's always some people that want to put in more effort and they're put in more thought and more focus, and they get further. And, you know, oh, well, they're fucking over all these other people. Are you sure that's everything? Because it seems like it's not. And it seems like as soon as you remove any incentive to succeed, then you don't have any of the amazing stuff that you have around you all the time. The reason why you have beautiful televisions and Starlink and all that, it's capitalism. It's that you have to incentivize people to create these things.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean the only way to do it is to fuck other people over. That's not correct. It can be done correctly. It can be done humanely. It can be done wisely. You could vote with your dollars. You could, you know, boycott companies that do things that you don't think are ethical. There's all sorts of wonderful ways that capitalism can be used, and you can sort of influence things in the right direction. But to throw it all out and say we've got to go to socialism, like, oh boy, I can't believe people are buying that. That to me is one of the real problems with not allowing conservative voices in universities, and that these universities, especially in the United States, are a lot of, especially like in sociology, psychology, and the overwhelmingly liberal. Like, surely there's got to be some historians out there that are conservative, and they would have a different perspective. And it might be good to have diversity of opinion, as well as diversity of national origin, as well as diversity of gender, as well as diversity of sexual orientation. Yeah, all that stuff's great. But also diversity of opinion.
Yeah.
Like, the only way to know whether or not this person's making sense is to have someone who completely disagrees, that has a better point, go up against them, and you watch them duke it out. And as soon as you silence all that because students don't feel safe, or because, you know, this is promoting X, Y, and Z, this person's a Nazi. Oh, they're a Nazi. We can't let them on there. As soon as you do that, you ruin the whole thing that a university is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be preparing young minds for discourse and for communicating and for figuring out the world on their own. They're eventually going to be independent and dependent entirely on their own actions and decisions, and go out there in the world, figure out your way. Arm them correctly. And the way to do that is to expose them to all sorts of different competing ideas. The idea that was ever accepted to be shut down in this country, especially in America, is a massive failure of the education system. Just massive.
What's up,
If you think that someone has bad points, come up with better points and let them duke it out. And don't pull fire alarms.
I'm scanning another platform as we speak because I know that we're bombing Iran again. So I'm kind of.
And don't silence them. And don't scream and protest and throw things at them.
I don't know why.
Communicate.
That I want to know so bad what the fuck's going on because there ain't shit that I can do. But
this is what, and anybody who doesn't do that should be shunned.
I'm the edema building up in your lower legs, and most compression socks can't even touch me. Let me show you what's.
Joining us now is U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matt Whitaker. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for being with us here this morning on the heels of what was an incredibly consequential week for the NATO alliance that you were overseeing with President Trump in Turkey. I want to ask you for your reflections on Senator Graham's passing off the bat.
Well, it was shocking and very saddened by the news, and to hear, Senator Scott talk about his friend Lindsey Graham is impactful, and certainly we all owe a debt to Lindsey Graham. I would run into him all over the world, quite frankly, and have had several meals with him where we talked about NATO and foreign policy, and he was just really wanted to make sure that America was in its place in the globe and at the front of making sure that we were strong and that strength would ensure peace. And so, it's really sad news. My heart goes out to his friends and family, and he will certainly be missed by many. And the United States has a role of patriot that will need to be replaced, unfortunately, because of his passing.
The senator, always a very staunch defender, as you well know, of the NATO alliance, more so perhaps than most of his colleagues, even defending member countries on occasion when they came under fire from the president.
Yeah, he would. And we talked about this often, both in his office and over a meal and in places like Italy and Romania. And what, Senator Graham made sure is that we did, play a role of being a good ally as well. We have high expectations of our allies in the NATO alliance. We want them to be stronger. We want them to invest in their own defense and therefore make the collective defense stronger. But he also wanted to make sure the United States of America was showing up, that we were delivering on our promises. And I think that was a good reminder for all of us that it is a two-way street. The United States expects our allies to do a lot, but he reminds us that the United States needs to show up for our allies as well.
And his passing comes at a very tense moment for U.S. relations in the Middle East as well. You and the president were busy huddling with NATO leaders this week, talking about the war in Iran as one of your main agenda items. We know breaking news overnight with renewed strikes, a third round. Where do you think we go from here this weekend, sir?
Well, there are some red lines that President Trump has, and one is that commercial shipping can't be terrorized in the Strait of Hormuz. And obviously, the memorandum of understanding between the parties was always performance-based, and that President Trump, if shipping is attacked or if the Iranians want to act belligerent, then he will respond with overwhelming force. We saw it when 3 ships were attacked a couple nights ago, 90 plus military strikes on targets. In this most recent attack, 140 or more military targets were attacked by the United States because that's what you do.
We go see what old Bear Brown's doing. Stop screen, share screen. Oh, he's still camping in a tent, I see.
I'm going to start up my generator, then I'm going to spark up another fire. I bagged up all the dry wood that I had, so it shouldn't take as long. It's pretty rainy today, but it often is here. Generator is running. I now have power to my camp.
This dude is a fucking nut, you know it?
All right, I got my fire going. I'm going to roast a hot dog.
It, Mickey.
Whew. It's soaking wet out here today, just like paradise.
You know, I hate the fact to know that Matt was being trolled to the point where, from what I understand, he was being trolled to the point where he couldn't take it anymore. And then that breakup with that girl, you know, it is something. I wonder why people that suffer mentally like that even get on these social media sites. I don't get it. Maybe they're we just uploaded it 2 days ago, bro. But anyways, people that suffer socially shouldn't be getting on here, right? Yeah, they're looking to be accepted. Yeah, I didn't, and that was something else too, Nikki. I wanted to know how he got that truck, right? I'm gonna show y'all something that I should have went further in pressing him, but I just kind of really didn't know how, if I'm being honest.
Sure, it's delicious. Really makes me miss the old days. My camp's a little bit empty, but it's been really great. Roasting hot dogs over an open fire. It doesn't get much better than that, unless it was a deer. Oh. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Everything bright and early in the morning. Got to stack up some more firewood, and then I'm probably going to scout to see if I can find a creek that's got some fish in it.
He may have taken it down. Nope, he didn't.
I'm going to see if I can't find some fish. I've got several rivers running close to me, and the salmon should still be swimming upstream. I can't use my hands, so I'm actually going to make a bush fishing pole. So I've got to use a...
When I seen this right here, this here bothered me. Yeah, I don't know, Nikki. I really don't. I really don't know about that. That kind of sounded crazy too, right? But hold on. Let me share this with y'all. This video right here really bothered me.
Journey's over. I got Matt in the boat with me right now, so we're going to meet the rescue crew. I told you I'd find you, man.
Why did he do that, right? Why in the fuck did he post this? You can see Matt laying face down in his fucking boat right here in his glasses. I didn't understand that. Now, there's no way in fucking hell that I would go find somebody. And then the first thing I thought of before I even get you back into the ramp is fucking post a video of it. Now, don't get me wrong, that dude seemed sincere, and I appreciate him coming on and talking with us and all. But why would you do that? And from what I understand, he got that truck like the same day. He took that truck. He knew Matt was gone. He knew where his truck was at. And as soon as they got him, they went and got his truck and took it back over there without nobody's permission. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the truth is behind that. And I appreciate him coming on. But I went to Bear's Instagram and watched some of it. And if Bear's to be believed, that's just not good, man. And then he sent out a bunch of crazy videos. I mean, that were just kind of unhinged, like, you know. It was weird. It just didn't seem to be let me see if I can find Bear's Instagram. The dude did sound sincere, but was it this one?
Ago, I am right now at Raven's place watching The Boys. Her place is a little bit more rigged to watch them.
Hey everybody, so I made it back to Washington. I'm in the same area as the rest of my family. It's been approximately 10 months since I was in this area. I left shortly after Gabe's boy Buck was born for Alaska. I drove through Canada and I was in Alaska for a few months. This is a update about Matt. They found a body in the river a few hours ago, and it was positively identified as being Matt. Noah was with them and helped them pull the body out of the water, and Noah identified him.
But see, now was Noah with them, or was he not with them? Because did Matt know the dude or not know the dude?
I would have never suspected he would have hurt himself, honestly. He struggled for a long time. So
Where was he at where he was talking about it?
Been having a small problem with my car. All right, so I'm in my apartment. First time I've ever stayed in an apartment before.
Anyways, he comes on here. He's like, I don't even know if he fucking knew Matt. That he didn't think that he fucking knew him.
we made it to Oklahoma a couple days ago. I am right now at Raven's place watching The Boys.
Actually, I think I may have sent it to Rich. Let me go look. Because I talked to Rich about it too. I was like, something just didn't seem right with that shit. All right, maybe I didn't. I don't know. That shit's weird to me, man. Why would you move the fucking body? You know what I mean? Like, for what? Matt knew Fungi. They were homies. Fungi helped Matt with many times. So why would Bear say that shit, smart mouth? But why would he post that shit? No shit. Okay. So I wonder why he said that shit. Bear's an idiot. I trust your judgment. You've never steered me wrong. It's kind of like Slayback. Slayback could be an asshole trying to manipulate the way you think of shit, but he's never fucking lied to me. I'd be like, go the fuck home, man. Leave me alone. You ain't gonna make me think no different. Oh shit. Yeah. So the stories about him teaching Matt about mushrooms and shit were true then, because he and even Bear's like, they have no videos together or nothing. I don't even know if he knew him. I still think it's weird, man, that he fucking posted him being in the front of the boat like that, showing it. You know what I mean? He had him in his glasses. He knew what he was doing. The way he angled his face and all. To me, that was just fucking weird. And then the videos going back and forth with him. That wasn't good. Oh, fucking AD's live right now. Yeah, no. Oh, no shit. No shit. See, I didn't know that. Then why not? Well, he wasn't keeping up with his fucking brother then, was he? If he didn't know that. If you knew that and he didn't know that. That's crazy, man. Pull this up right. Well, watch old Tootsie and see what he got.
Democracy, especially
seems to have
the
more
Iranian
fucking,
people.
No, and from what Fungi said, is he felt slighted on the inheritance and stuff. But what the fuck did they have to inherit it? They didn't really look like they had no more money than anybody else.
People. The Iranian people have lost a great ally in the U.S. Congress. The Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi, has lost a great friend in the U.S.
Yeah.
And President Trump
can tell, bro,
lost a great friend.
So you could tell that he did, right? Why would he have cut all of them out? His mom and all of them. Something happened behind the scenes that we didn't know about, and it fucked with Matt. It bothered him really, really bad. And you could tell, it was watching Matt, I swear it was like watching my older brother. My older brother got done that way too. My mom fucking moved off and left him at a young age in Indiana. She did me the same way. She did my other brother in Tennessee that way when we lived in Nashville. But I was a young kid, but it was almost like as soon as she was old enough to fucking get rid of us, she did. She was the one that wanted to kick your ass out the nest. I wasn't even 16 years old yet. I was like 15 fucking years old, running around, no way to really work. You know what I mean? It was crazy, man. I cannot do one of my kids that way. I'm sorry.
In politics.
One day before, to be honest with you, it affects me still to this day because I didn't get the schooling I needed. You know what I'm saying? Which is no excuse. I mean, I worked hard, whatever. That doesn't mean that you can't work and take care of yourself, but it was an uphill battle the whole fucking way.
For his death, a day and a half, technically. His last trip was
it did teach me to be a
to Ukraine.
survivor.
He met with the Ukrainians to obviously discuss the threats from both Russia, but also the IRGC with the drones and everything else. He seemed healthy. And of course, his latest health records were also fine and good. And then obviously sudden, as they called it, sudden illness last minute and a heart attack. Let's quickly go to see the last public footage of Lindsey Graham.
I'm pleased to announce, as of about 30 minutes ago, we've reached agreement with the White House on a version of the Russian sanctions bill that they will support. It means it's going to become law. So when I get back to Washington, I'm going to go with Senator Blumenthal to the Republican and the Democratic leader to see if we can find time to move this Russian sanctions package that would give tools to President Trump to help end this war.
Yeah, so he was only 71 years old and in good shape. As I said, his health records were fine, the latest ones. But also the FBI, they have to obviously intervene because he was a senator. The Kash Patel, director of the FBI, said that Senator Lindsey Graham was a devoted public servant, a fierce defender of our nation, and a true patriot who dedicated his life to the people of South Carolina and the United States. Our prayers are with his family, loved ones, colleagues, and all those who knew him during this devastating time. The FBI is assisting local authorities and has made every necessary resource available. Of course, we're going to have to wait for the overall investigation. Meanwhile, in Iran, the Islamic Republic obviously are celebrating this, but the IRGC elements have come out to claim a responsibility and saying that, well, but we did it, apparently, and because he was on the kill list. Now, they haven't provided any evidence of how they killed him, so it's the IRGC basically. It reminds me of the days of Daesh or the Islamic State. Whenever there was a terrorist attack around the world, even if the person was not linked to ISIS, maybe it was Al Qaeda, they would come out and immediately take responsibility. Like, well, it wasn't one of your guys. But in this case, obviously, there has to be a full investigation on both levels. On one side, the IRGC are claiming this, but we don't have evidence. They could just be talking nonsense. On the other side, we have seen this pattern of behavior by both Russia and the IRGC when it comes to undetectable poison that they have done that causes heart attack. Now, as I said, this is what the Islamic Republic have now published, claiming responsibility, saying we have eliminated Senator Lindsey Graham, according to the state TV channels, saying that this list will be completed soon, as they want to also target
Hey, will somebody send this to Dave Hookstead and tell him he is not on their fucking list?
President Trump. We are going to talk about that because apparently there was a suspicious activity in Turkey a few days ago. Obviously, we got the Prime Minister of Israel, the Secretary of State in America, Secretary of War, the generals, the leadership of Bahrain, Kuwait, UAE. Everybody is on the list, and Lindsey Graham, according to the Islamic Republic, has been taken out. Let's go to the moment when the news channels in Iran announced this. One of them said, I congratulate the great nation of Iran on the fact that Lindsey Graham has gone straight to hell, according to the IRGC.
Straight to hell.
50% of people in this country don't live within driving distance of a Whole Foods, and even more of them can't afford their premiums, even if they do.
Nick Green and his co-founders came up with the idea for Thrive.
Lindsey Graham is in the fucking stock car with Dale Earnhardt right now.
کنم به درک واصل شدن لیندسی گراهام، سناتور جنگ طلب و ضد ایرانی آمریکا رو به ملت بزرگ ایران شاد باش عرض میکنم.
Interesting creatures, obviously, in the Islamic regime of Iran. We're going to get your reaction in the live chat shortly, but this is also the other thing that they have been saying, with the connection that we have with the sources inside the IRGC group chats and their platforms. So they are claiming responsibility. At the same time, we have this situation where, to translate some of the stuff that's been mentioned, saying the first one has been hunted down, but there's more to go apparently. Another one saying we made him disappear, and the last one says Trump is next. Now, there has already been at least 2 assassination plots by the IRGC against the president. Both failed. There was a suspicious activity over the last few days in Turkey, but at the same time, there is the Russians who have the capability, you know, this is not really anybody directly accusing the Russians. The Russians who have the capability of doing these things, when it happens, they don't come out to claim responsibility. They just pretend nothing's happened, even when the evidence is basically clear. The IRGC, whether they had any role in this or not, and there is no evidence that they did, but again, I wouldn't be surprised, they are publicly already preemptively claiming responsibility. So that's a slight difference between in terms of mentality. They're a bunch of terrorist amateurs. Now, Lindsey Graham, only with the target on his face, is saying, at least they used a good photo of me. Judge me by my enemies. Unfortunately, now he's gone. We're going to go back to the Islamic Republic State Media. Another news presenter getting slightly excited.
این خبر اونقدر خبر خوبیه که دوست دارم یک بار ضد ایرانی به درک واصل شد. سناتور گراهام یکی از سرسخت‌ترین چهره‌های ضد ایرانی در کنگره آمریکا بود و بارها از حملات ترامپ علیه ایران حمایت کرده بود. دفتر لینزی گراهام در توصیف علت مرگ این سناتور آمریکایی از عبارت بیماری ناگهانی استفاده کرده.
Yeah, of so far foul play in terms of whether IRGC or Russia claiming to be involved. President Trump reacted saying that Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the greatest people and senators I have ever known, is dead. He was always working and was a true American patriot. Lindsey will be greatly missed. Details and arrangements to follow. So sad, President Donald J. Trump. He has also been doing the media rounds on CNN and CNBC and all the other channels. Let's go to the president for a few seconds.
I never thought I'd be in this position.
Yeah.
I said, I thought Lindsey was going to live forever. And he was going to have a big victory. You know, he was scheduled. He was going to win by a lot. He was going to have one of his best elections ever. And now he's got this. Terrible.
Let's not forget, when it comes to, there are always other groups that would be your enemies, especially if you are a senator like Lindsey Graham. And it doesn't always have to be the obvious suspects, even if that were the case. But as far as we know, they are saying that this was a heart attack, and that's it. Obviously, there will be a full investigation. The FBI are also assisting after the intervention. We have a comment here from Canada saying devastated about Lindsey, but they are reporting it was a heart attack. We are reporting it as a heart attack. It's in the title. Everybody's reporting it as a heart attack. As you can see also on the screen underneath the rolling banner, everybody's reporting it as heart attack for now, unless evidence to the contrary is discovered. Lindsey Graham was, as I said, he was loved by the Iranian people, and the Iranian people loved him. And let's quickly go to this.
Introducing Iron Beam, the best choice for futures trading.
I'm too tough.
Iron Beam
Nah,
is
man,
the
and that's-
industry-leading
you know,
broker.
He's. I don't think.
Apparently, I'm commonly referred to as Uncle Lindsay in Iran, and apparently that's a good thing.
Yeah, so it seems like apparently I'm always referred to in Iran as Uncle Lindsay. Yep. The Iranian people called Lindsey Graham Uncle Lindsay, or in Persian, Amu Lindsay means uncle. He was a great friend to the Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi, the leader of the opposition of Iran. This is a statement we have from the Crown Prince saying, I am deeply saddened by the sudden passing of Senator Lindsey Graham, a steadfast friend of the Iranian people and a proud defender of freedom. At moments when moral clarity was required,
What if they figure out that he fucking was
Senator
poisoned?
Graham stood on the right side. When friends were seldom found, he stood alongside the people of Iran in their struggle against tyranny. He used his voice to ensure that the voices of those fighting for justice were heard in the halls of power. His support for Iran's Lion and Sun revolution earned him the title Uncle Lindsay among Iranians. He will be remembered with profound gratitude and deep respect. We extend our deepest condolences to Senator Graham's family, loved ones, colleagues, and the people of South Carolina and the United States. May he rest in peace, and may others carry on the fight for freedom. Now, Lindsey Graham also met up with Reza Pahlavi a while back recently, actually, as the revolution, the efforts for the revolution in Iran continued. Let's quickly go to a few moments of this, and then I'm going to get more reaction.
Senator Lindsey Graham here with the Crown Prince of Iran. I have followed you, your passion, the way you articulate the hope of your people. It will be up to the people of Iran to pick their next leader. I can't wait till they have a chance to do that. But you are really risen to the occasion, compelling narrative for the long-suffering people of Iran. And
yeah. Now, there's also a reaction from the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, who was also a good friend and ally to Lindsey Graham. We have someone saying that the US is not smart enough to do this, but the US. But we should say publicly that since Iran took responsibility, we will now overthrow the regime. CIA and the White House and Pentagon will know what they're doing anyway, so they will decide on this. Few days after Trump's standing orders against Iran, Lindsey goes away. I wondered why President Trump was suddenly rattled by Iranian threats. He wasn't. None of this happened. President Trump got angry when the IRGC started shooting at vessels, and then obviously responded. They hit them back massively. But no, that was not the case. Let's quickly go to the Prime Minister of Israel, who also was on TV earlier on a few minutes ago, saying Lindsey Graham was a wonderful friend and a great American.
People who have a lot of credit card debt can be thankful for this. There's something called financial hardship that'll.
Patriots.
Was a wonderful, wonderful friend, a great American patriot, and a great champion of the Israel-American alliance. And I'll miss him personally a lot. I really thought the world of him. And I think the world has lost a great human being. America's lost a great senator. And we have lost a great friend.
Yes. Now, only a few days ago, in Turkey, there was a security issue with President Trump's transport. On the 7th of July, which is, was it 5 days ago? President Trump gets to Turkey for the NATO summit, and he used the jet that was the plane that was gifted to him by the state of Qatar. I was fine. They've already checked it. They've done all the vettings and everything else over the last few months. Then we had on the next day, President Trump announcing that the MOU, the ceasefire extension, is over. And straight after he's about to leave, the US decides to change the planes. They basically switched the planes last minute. They didn't explain whatever else happened. And then on the 9th of July, the next day, we got confirmation that a credible plot to assassinate President Trump by the Islamic Republic in Turkey was uncovered. Also, we just received breaking news that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have just launched fresh attacks on Kuwait. So that's still continuing. We will talk about what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz as well, because there seems to be a bit of a confusion when it comes to who is actually managing the Strait of Hormuz. But before we get to that, to focus on the reactions to Lindsey Graham's death. Both the anti-Western side, so whether you are on the far right or the far left of the anti-Western side, they're all coming together. They're all uniting on this one issue. So we got Nick Fuentes saying good riddance, and we've got the Young Turks' Anna Kasparian also saying good riddance. Now, for the record, Anna, now when it comes to Nick, there's no need or point to try to scrutinize what Nick Fuentes says or does, because he's just a caricature of himself. Can't really take any of that seriously. But when it comes to people like Anna, she claims to be credible. She claims to be smart. She's part of the Young Turks, which already is questioning the level of IQ that she has. A couple of days ago, Anna Kasparian said that the United States, the USA, were playing against Bosnia and Herzegovina in the World Cup. And she said the US were playing these guys, and in the World Cup, I'm going to put the clip on for you guys because this is the most absurd thing. The reason this is important is because people like her who are going around saying this, good riddance, they have big followings, but they are bringing down the existing low IQ of their own followers. And they need to be called out on not necessarily their views on the death of someone, but on the fact that these people are not credible. Watch this. She thinks that the US was playing against two teams at the same time. It's one country.
So Balogun was hit with a red card during last Wednesday's game between the US and Bosnia and Herzegovina. So apparently
Herzegovina, yep.
Since these are two little countries, small. So apparently, since these are two little countries, or smaller countries, I should say, you have the US team battling it out between these two smaller countries. Okay, now according to The Athletic,
battling it out between these two. But she said it with confidence, right? Now, the reason I showed you this moment is because they do this with every topic, whether they are talking about economic policies, whether they're talking about foreign affairs or social issues. And so many people grew up watching the Young Turks, and they thought that they're just normal, well-meaning liberals. They are just talking about the news. Because they're doing it with confidence, right? Look at this. This is what you have to deal with. They have no idea. She thought that was two countries, two small countries. And so I don't know how it's going to work on the football field. The US is just on this one side, and they got two countries attacking it. They're battling it out. Anyway, the situation in the Strait of Hormuz as well is escalating.
Yeah, they bombing the fuck out of them right now.
Let me just quickly get some more reactions.
All right, enough of that shit. All right, Joe. Oh, well, fuck. I'm probably fixing to get my ass off of here. I'm fixing to go drink me some coffee and find something to fucking watch on TV. Y'all have a good day. Take it easy. Later. Tater.